What up, my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching? Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. And boy, are we here to talk about one of the most eclectic, funny, colorful, yet strange cult movies probably ever made. And I can't imagine being here with two better guys to talk about it with. Now, let me bring it into my co-host before we get into all the spoilery stuff about this great movie. We'll start with my hetero life mate, Jeremy. What's up, brother?
I'm going to do that every 10 seconds in case you forget. Hey, well, I managed to put something together. I've had this bow tie for forever. The cool thing is it's actually called Bow Tie Tuesday. So that worked out well. That worked out well for me. I mean, I'm glad I picked red, apparently. She doesn't have a gray jacket. I have a gray shirt. That's what you get. Was this or a gray sweatshirt? It's closet cosplay. What do you want? It's all on the fly.
Hey, better than me.
You're a rebel, Jeremy. You're a rebel, I'll tell you what.
I just have one of my Demolition Ranch shirts, so you tried harder than I did.
Well, I tried to see how far I could push the typing in my name there. I'm like, I'm glad that all fit. That works for me. Paging Mr. Herman, Mr. Pee-wee Herman.
And, of course, the one guy who does not have a boomerang bow tie. The shape of the Lone Star State, my man Tex. What's up, brother?
Hey, it is currently 108 degrees. You're lucky I'm wearing a shirt whatsoever. But, we're, trying not to melt, in the heat. But I can testify this film is very accurate. If you go to anywhere in the Lone Star State and go, the stars at night are big and bright, and then leave it there, it will get finished. I can testify. I have seen it happen myself. So Tim Burton did his homework. So credit to you, sir. So,
I was gonna say, keep your shirt on. We're not that kind of Pee-wee Herman. Not
well. Hey, for the right donations, this can all disappear. So y'all let me know.
Hey, yeah, one of the easiest pictures to find, and I'm very glad, was this one right here. I figured it would go very well for Tex.
Pee-wee Herman, obviously, God rest his soul, Paul Reubens, but, even he himself went as Pee-wee Herman. So he may not have been born here, but he is a fellow Texan. He has earned the honorary Texan moniker. So Texas mourns, and it was actually kind of fitting. Monday, I was traveling, and I was going through San Antonio. I went to the Alamo. Within hours, this is when I found out that Pee-wee Herman had passed. I'm like, oh my, how it was just the timing of it just was obviously I didn't know the guy, but just, knowing the significance of the Alamo and Pee-wee Herman and everything else, it was just very, kind of sitting chills up my spine a little bit, to be honest with you. But yeah, it was kind of weird.
But yeah, let's go ahead and start to break this down a little bit, shall we? Now, the movie we're talking about, obviously, is Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's the 1985 American adventure comedy film directed by Tim Burton in what is his feature film directing debut. It stars Paul Reubens. Paul Reubens is Pee-wee Herman, who also co-wrote the screenplay with the late, great Phil Hartman and Michael Varhol. Described as a parody or a farce version of the 1948 Italian classic Bicycle Thieves. It tells the story of Pee-wee's nationwide search for his stolen bike. After the success of the Pee-wee Herman show, Reubens began writing a script for Pee-wee's Big Adventure when he was hired by the Warner Brothers film studio. Impressed with Burton's work on his short films, Vincent in 1982 and Frankenweenie in 1984, the producers and Reubens hired him to direct. Filming took place in California and Texas. The film was released on August 9th, 1985, and was a financial success, believe it or not, grossing over $40 million against a budget of about $7 million, which is still quite a bit for 1985, but it was a profitable film. It became a cult film and continued to accumulate positive feedback over the years. It was nominated for a Young Artist Award and spawned two standalone sequels, the first being Big Top Pee-wee in 1988, and more recently, Pee-wee's Big Holiday in 2016 that was on Netflix. Its financial success, followed by the equally successful Beetlejuice in 1988, prompted Warner Brothers to hire Burton to direct a little film that came out in 1989 called Batman. Rotten Tomatoes reports that 87% of 47 critics gave it a positive review with an average rating of 7.8 out of 10. The critical consensus reads, and I quote, Pee-wee's Big Adventure brings Paul Reubens' famous character to the big screen intact, along with enough inspired silliness to dazzle children of all ages. You know, as someone who grew up with this movie as kind of a staple of the regular movies that I would view. I mean, this movie was never looked at as bad by anybody that I knew. I mean, was it high art? No, not even close. I mean, is it Tim Burton's best movie? No, I would say it's actually one of his signature movies, not the best. I prefer the first two Batman films, and I think Alice in Wonderland is a fairly good film. But I mean, look, for a first shot at Tim Burton. For Tim Burton, it wasn't half bad. Jeremy, I'll go to you first. Just kind of quick thoughts on the film before we start to dive into the details.
Man, I didn't know you could make a whole movie out of trying to find a bike. But to be fair, you know, other than like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, come on, everybody wants Pee-wee's bike. You can't tell me that isn't a slick piece of machinery right there. So
it is sharp. Yeah,
I don't blame anybody, but or I don't blame Pee-wee either. I mean, that's. I'd be kidding. Get my hands on that bike any way I could, even if it means going to Texas or, you know,
right.
getting in a truck with Large Marge. Jesus Christ.
But Tex, how about you? A quick paragraph before we start to talk about the cast. What are just some of your general thoughts about the film?
I grew up with this film. This was one of the. We had this on This was one of the first VHS tapes I ever actually watched. I always loved this movie. It was. I don't know if I saw Batman '89 before I saw this. I can't remember. I don't remember which one I saw, first. But I've always thought this was Tim Burton's best movie, and he's done some good ones. The Batman films, the Nightmare on Christmases. He's got his own style and his own variety. But even for this to be his feature film, you can really see the Tim Burton-ness in there's an under. If this thing was scored differently, this is a horror film. I mean, there's some very scary stuff in this, but yeah, I love this movie. To me, if you were to put like a list of best '80s films, this is a contender to be on there with no doubt.
Yeah, I believe that too. There were some very Tim Burton-esque shots in here. I mean, we know Tim Burton likes the dark stuff, and there was a couple of scenes in here that are very Tim Burton-y. You know what I mean? Like the whole dream sequence where he's watching his bike be destroyed and the scary clown faces. I mean, that was a very Tim Burton-y kind of shot. I'm looking at the actually, I was just realizing that it's actually 40.9 million is what Wikipedia says it has in total run, but that was just domestic. When you add the worldwide box office, it's actually just over 41. So it made about $1 million or so in other territories as well, which is not a big deal. I mean, for the mid '80s, they didn't watch the international market the way they do now. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of the seminal movies of the '80s. It's eclectic. It's weird. It's one of those great movies that has like the jokes that adults are going to get, but it's colorful enough. It's those dangly keys for the kids. So it's one of those movies that kind of entertains everybody at one level or another. And the movie, oddly, not visually, it's like the film stock I think is bad. I had trouble finding a lot of shots that weren't like really grainy and hazy and shitty. But I mean, for the most part, for the way it was made, the film holds up pretty well. I mean, special effects not great, but what did you expect? A, from 1985, B, from a very young director in Tim Burton, and B, from a guy like Paul Reubens, who fairly popular at the time already, but was not. They weren't. I mean, it was kind of a shock if they gave him $7 million to make this movie, but it worked in the end. It's just fun. It's one of those movies you don't even have to turn your brain off to watch it. It's like you can find little themes and stuff in here that are actually pretty cool. So, but I mean, honestly, you can turn your brain off and watch it and still be just as entertained. But let's start with the cast first off. I mean, there's a whole lot of no names, but there's also a lot of big names in this as well. Mostly names that would go on to be bigger in time. I mean, obviously, Elizabeth Daily, who played Dottie, ended up doing a lot of voice work. Mark Holden he was kind of a part-time player in a lot of '80s stuff. Diane Solinger, was really tight with Paul Reubens. You have Phil Hartman, who was in there for a while in a couple things. For the wrestling fans out there, you had Professor Tanaka, who you might remember. Who was the one that played the big guy? Drawing a blank. Let me find his name real quick. Mario. He was another wrestler. I'm trying to find his name. Damn it. Yeah, Silo Sam. John Elmo Harris, who played the big boyfriend guy, Simone's boyfriend, he was a professional wrestler as well. So for all you wrestlers out there, all you wrestling fans out there in the community, they were well represented. Jeremy, I mean, what did you think of the cast? And other than Pee-wee, who kind of stood out to you the most as kind of helping carry the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I would have said like Dottie, kind of probably the second most important character, maybe. I mean, out of everybody. If you couldn't tell by looking at that dude was definitely a wrestler. And it's kind of it's amazing watching Pee-wee, who's like 90 pounds, try to like dip and dodge out of this dude who's probably like, 190. So, I don't know. It's like she's kind of not really it's not Dottie's fault, but she's kind of the catalyst. It's like, oh, he goes in there and just tries to let her down real easy, and well, that's what you get. You lose your bike for that. But at least she was still there for him in the end when the movie got super bad.
I tell you what, she was thirsty for some Pee-wee. I tell you, whatever he had on her, she, we should all be so lucky because she was hurting for it, buddy.
He had that bike, man. He had the sweet ride. And she took care of the dog. Look at that. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So that's always a plus.
Tex, what about you? Overall cast, and who kind of stood out to you as somebody who carried other than Pee-wee?
Oh, the cast is great. I mean, stand up. I think it's funny, Francis, the guy that played him, Mark Horton, would go on to play John Wayne Gacy in a biopic of him a few years later. If you haven't seen that, actually go watch it. It's actually a pretty solid movie. But how can you not say Cassandra Peterson, a.k.a. Elvira, the Mistress of the Dark? I mean, I have always loved Elvira, will always love Elvira. And to see her short cameo in this film is maybe the highlight. Besides the Texas portion, she may be the highlight of the film for me. I've always loved her portion. Let me have him first, just the whole thing. So,
I could have sworn I had a picture of her. I don't know why it's not in here. Let me see if I can load it in real quick. But, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, you're not because you're so used to seeing Cassandra Peterson in the Elvira getup, with the big hair and the dress and the whole thing. And, for like, I've seen people who have never watched this before. Oh, wait, I know her. Where do I know her from? And it kind of takes them a second to find it. And they, most times they end up remembering who she is. But, it's just, for Cassandra Peterson and Paul Reubens, they were really good friends. Pee-wee was supposed to have a cameo in Elvira's movie Mistress of the Dark, but for whatever reason it didn't work out. But which, if you ever want to do a cool back-to-back watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Elvira's Mistress of the Dark. They pair very well together. It's a good double feature that you can have a good Saturday with or whatever. So I've done it a couple times.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Tex. I mean, it's like Elvira does kind of stand out. There wasn't enough of her, to be absolutely honest, in the movie at all. I'm sure if Tim Burton had it to do all over again, he probably would have given her a bigger role in the movie. But Pee-wee obviously is great. The whole thing's about him. Dottie, I even love it. I've known a lot of people over the years that said that her voice is kind of grating. I actually like women that have the voices have kind of like texture. You know what I mean? That's why I've always liked Stevie Nicks and Adele. Their voices have texture. Her voice kind of has that little bit of a rasp to it.
Yeah. Did you ever see Rob Zombie's 31, the movie that came out a few years ago?
No, but I know she was in it. She actually was in a few of his films.
She was in that. She was in The Devil's Rejects. She's got that raspy kind of like you said, Stevie Nicks, kind of like a smoker's voice a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's bad. I think she's a very attractive woman, but she's got it's not an annoying voice. It's a recognizable voice, I would say. There she is.
Yeah, there's Cassandra Peterson right there. It's Elvira.
Oh yeah. There's the hostess with the mostest, all of the Elvira puns that you want to throw at her. I mean, who didn't grow up on, watching Elvira present some terrible schlocky movie that you probably never watched, but because she's showing it to you, you gladly watch it. I mean, so yeah, I'm down.
But yeah, and also one of the things that works out really well with this cast is they didn't just get together for this movie. Paul Reubens, early in his career, I think in the late 70s, as he had gotten to Hollywood, joined the now famous Groundlings comedy group that had so many people that would go on to be like a Saturday Night Live and things like that. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people, let's see, I try to remember, Phil Hartman, the guy that played Zombie was also in this movie.
Oh, there she is.
This isn't my bike.
That's not your bike.
That's not a bicycle. That's only half of it.
Yours in the basement.
Go find the rest of the bicycle.
Have you seen my bike?
Hey, I was just at the Alamo, and I checked again. There is no damn basement under there. I'm telling you what.
No basement.
I went inside. I went outside. There is no basement there.
See, that's what they want you to believe, Tex. It's all a conspiracy.
Yeah, that's where they're behind the aliens, Tex.
That's where the aliens are.
If that would be the perfect place to hide the aliens is in the Alamo basement, because all of us Texans would protect that secret without even knowing it. They would never find out. So,
Yeah, but guys like Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, who played the tour guide at the Alamo, she was part of the Groundlings. So a lot of the people that he had kind of come up with in comedy, a lot of these people had kind of helped him develop the Pee-wee character from the beginning. We're all kind of in this movie, so so all these people had kind of birthed this thing together, which is probably one of the reasons why it worked out so well, because they all had kind of a little bit of skin in the game. They all felt like they wanted this thing it was a personal endeavor for them to make this thing successful.
From some of the research that I did, Reubens and Phil Hartman, they went to some of their family to like, hey, invest in us. We have this show idea, whatever. I think Phil Hartman got I think it was like $3,000 from family or something, and they put together a live show. And I think it was in New York. It was either New York or Chicago. I can't remember. But the live show was so popular that they had to move it to a larger venue. And then that's when HBO filmed the first live action Pee-wee thing. And that was the first time you ever saw it on camera. And then they did, the show and the movies and the whatever. But yeah, it was a homegrown effort. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but definitely a cast that at the time wasn't huge. But I mean, a lot of these people went on to do a lot of things. So, I mean, even honestly, I would say that other than Paul Reubens, the one who went on to have the most successful career was probably the girl that played Dottie. She's done all kinds of voice work and some acting and stuff like that. So she's been in a lot lot of stuff.
Who was she on Rugrats? She was somebody on that Rugrats cartoon.
I don't know. I think I might have it in my notes for later. I don't know if I had that in my trivia or not.
Yeah, she was somebody on there, but yeah, pretty big role.
I don't know. I mean, I can go look it up, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of these people went on to do some pretty great things in entertainment. So that's pretty cool. They all get their start here. Now, I'm one of the people that shits on Tim Burton every chance I get, because I do think his movies are either really good or they're terrible. There really is no in between for him when it comes to me and my taste and what I like in movies. But I gotta say, I mean, of all the ones, and look at the very young Tim Burton right here. I found this picture. I was like, I know it's really grainy and shitty, but I want to throw it out there because he looks like such a weirdo now. He looks almost normal back then. But I mean, I can't knock it. This is a really fun movie. That, I mean, he really spread his wings on this. I like the fact that they trusted this guy to look. I know they probably didn't take this movie all that seriously at the studio anyway. They were like, this movie's going to make us a few bucks. It's going to draw some attention. Maybe it'll make Pee-wee a more marketable character so that we can do this whole TV thing. But Tim Burton kind of knocks it out of the park with this one. And like I said, I'm somebody who shits on Tim Burton every chance I get. But I can't knock his directorial debut. This is actually one of my favorite movies from an era of fantastic movies. I mean, I don't know how big of a Tim Burton fan you are, but I mean, was this a good start for him, do you think?
Oh, I think this is his best movie. I mean, out of going through his catalog, I would say I've seen most Tim Burton films. I couldn't give you a list of all of his work, but I mean, from Edward Scissorhands to the Batmans to, the Nightmare Before Christmases to all those, I would argue to say this is the one I probably enjoy the most and the one I go back to the most. Not counting Batman, but oddly enough, his Batman films, the more I watch them, the less I like them. I like Batman Returns more than I do '89. But yeah, I think this is his best movie for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jeremy, how about you? I mean, I think you're a bigger Tim Burton fan than me. You're a little bit more appreciative of a lot of his work. But I mean, where would you rank this kind of all time in the list of all the movies that he's made?
Well, I'm definitely putting Batman and Batman Returns a lot higher, obviously. I'm going to break everyone's heart. I didn't really grow up with Pee-wee. It wasn't really my thing. So I'm sorry to say that. But I don't, doubt its significance. So I'm not saying I hated it. I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't for me. It didn't catch me at the right time because I didn't see it until much later in life. So, because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be like, okay, Batman Returns. I'd put Nightmare Before Christmas on there. Hell, I think I'd even put Charlie and the Chocolate Factory higher than this. But
wow,
blasphemy! Blasphemy! That would be horrible.
Hey, I know, and I know what I said. I don't know. No, maybe not. Maybe they can go hand in hand. They can hold hands down the Chocolate River or some shit. I don't know. He ride his bike on the. I almost said the Yellow Brick Road. That's not even the right fucking movie.
I could hear Pee-wee Herman singing "I Got a Golden Ticket" as he's riding his bicycle. That's something that I could say.
You could have just replaced Charlie with Pee-wee, and it probably still could have worked.
Oh my God, that's the crossover. Forget this prequel nonsense. Give us a Pee-wee Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's the sequel. There you go.
There's your Burton verse. You got Pee-wee's Chocolate Factory Adventure. I don't know. Extravaganza. It's a better word. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we can do it.
But a fun movie. Let's go to the plot real quick. Usually movies like this, they're really all about kind of the moments. This movie is actually, it's simple enough to say that he was going after his lost bike and that's the plot, but it really is kind of a journey that he goes on of self-discovery along the way. Like I said, there are better beats in this than a lot of the kind of throwaway movies that you get like this. I thought it was really enjoyable. I don't know. Jeremy, what do you think of the overall plot? Did it work for you?
I mean, I get the, going on quite literally going on a big adventure for something as, like I said, something as slick as that bike, man. I mean, and of course, all of the shenanigans that are obviously going to come along the way with that, like meeting some guy that apparently just broke out of prison. Like I said, some trucker lady who doesn't exist, it's all superstition. And when you finally get down to it, sometimes you just got to dress like a nun and jack that bike from the kid from Back to the Future. So I couldn't. I was like, oh my God, hey, that's the kid. That's the kid from Back to the Future. Holy shit. It was mildly distracting. But hey, you know what? Like you said, it's all about the moments, and it's just kind of a simple enough plot that keeps itself moving. But it's like, again, like I said, the shenanigans along the way. It's like you can have your moments and still keep the plot biking along. I'm just kind of mad they didn't do they could have thrown Freddie Mercury in here at least once and had him sing the song or something. Bicycle. I'll stop before we get copyrighted and I start making Freddie Mercury rolling his fucking grave for that.
There's a reason that song probably didn't make it. And if Pee-wee's Big Adventure can't afford it, then neither can we. So,
really.
Probably don't have that kind of money to the license.
All you got is me, and that's I can't do that justice either. So,
Tex, what about you? I mean, the plot, did it work for you?
This is an interesting movie. I think the plot works here. Yes, realistically, the plot is a overgrown man-child loses his bike, and he goes to Texas to find it. Number one, how does Pee-wee Herman afford these things in this lifestyle that he lives? He has to be rich. But it's kind of funny, you have Pee-wee and you have Francis. You know, they're obviously both very well off, both grown men that are children, basically. But one has a heart of gold, and then the other is just a fat little man that is just angry at the world, being Francis. And, the plot works very well for this film. It's, tell him Marge sent you. There you go.
That's awesome.
See, I could see, I see Casey down here in the comments talking a lot of shit, so I could see Casey shacking up with something that looks about like that. So, there's your
that or the other face she makes, because I think he would take anything.
Either one, he'll probably get both. I mean, depending how well he doesn't please her, because he sucks. But it was the plot works in this movie. A lot of '80s films, when you go back and look, they're not real strong plots. But as I've said 1,000 times on here, don't let plot get in the way of a good story. This doesn't have to be a Shakespeare here. This is, Pee-wee and Francis have this rival kind of frenemy kind of thing going, and Francis steals his bike and, it's in the basement of the Alamo. Well, so he goes to Texas and he rides a bull with a hat that's 15 feet around, and, it works. It's a fun movie. What I mean?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's got a simple enough plot, but like I said, it kind of approaches it from a couple of different angles. It's not just this journey to find this bike. It's obviously there's something very meaningful about this bike to him, and so he ends up kind of finding a bit of himself along the way, so to speak. Meeting interesting people. It's always fun to see things outside of your own world. And if you're kind of constantly in this fishbowl of your own, you're not usually privy to what's going on in the world around you. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of fun about this, is he comes across this crazy group of people. I mean, you really like the relationship between him and what's the girl, Simone, the waitress. The relationship they have, it's pleasant. It's positive. It makes you feel good to watch it. And he wouldn't have had that relationship had it not been for his bike being stolen. He wouldn't have found all the friends that we see at the end at the drive-in as they're watching the movie in the movie. He wouldn't have found all these people had this thing that he thought was bad not happen to him. So yeah, you would rather not go through it. But at the same time, you are growing as a person having to go through it. So it kind of works at a couple of different levels. I do find it funny that they say you call it Big Adventure. He's basically in California and Texas. There's only 2 states of the union that he's in. But whatever. I mean, very different places. Even in 1985, there were very different places. Certainly now, but I mean, even in 1985, there were very different places. So I guess he was definitely seeing a little bit more of the world. But yeah, I thought.
Have you ever tried to travel across Texas? It will take you days to get across this state. That is a huge adventure. So, especially when you're on a bicycle.
I've driven from Ohio to California multiple times, and I've hit like the Texas Panhandle, like northern Texas, because usually what we do is we'd head south to Mississippi, then across the lower part of the U.S. to hit like Bakersfield and cruise back up to my hometown, because it's actually an easier drive than driving straight through. But yeah, so I've driven through the panhandles. The other time I was in Texas was 2 years ago. I was in Houston for like 3 days, so all the driving we did was kind of in the Houston area. We didn't try to drive too far away.
For the ones who don't, for the ones who've never traveled here, Texas is one of those few places where you don't measure it in miles. The miles don't matter. You measure it in how many hours it's going to take you to get across the state. I think Texas is the only state that you can drive 24 hours straight in and still be in the same place, like same state. It is massive. It is absolutely huge. It's just one of those things. But I should have that poster on my wall. I'm kind of embarrassed that I don't have it as a poster.
Tex, we do that here too, right?
What's that?
We don't. It's not. First of all, Midwesterners, we will drive everywhere. We don't care how long it takes, because that's how long. It's like, it's only going to take you an hour. Like, we don't really care. It's not how many miles it is. It's not. I know that's about 2 hours from here. Yeah, I understand that, but we don't. You could probably fit 2 or 3 Ohios inside of Texas, though. So I understand that part.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Good God, yeah.
We're also me and Jeremy are in this weirdly arranged geographical area. We're kind of an hour from everywhere. We're an hour from Columbus.
Yeah.
We're an hour from Cincinnati. We're about 2 hours from Indianapolis. We're about 2
from Cleveland.
Yeah, 2 from Cleveland. 2 from Cleveland.
Maybe 3. I don't know. But everything is about an hour. Yeah.
I remember the first time some relatives would come out here from California to visit, and they were just like, "Well, how far is this Columbus?" And I was like, "That's about an hour now north." You go, "How far is Cincinnati?" You go, "About an hour south." And he pulled in, and on cue, my Uncle Sam pulls out that line from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. He goes, "Well, this place is a geographical oddity, an hour from everywhere."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. We're an hour or two from almost everywhere you really want to be."
It's this weird little pocket that just I don't know. That is weird.
It very much is. But let's take a minute just to kind of remember Paul Reubens' career from here on out. I mean, there's only so much we can say about the movie, but I mean, let's talk about how his career kind of excelled at this point. Obviously, after this comes Pee-wee's Playhouse and a couple other movies, lots of other appearances. He became a pop culture figure for 2 or 3 decades after this. Let's take a minute just to appreciate his career. Jeremy, I'll go to you first. I know that you didn't grow up with Pee-wee the way I did with a character. But I mean, he's still someone that has been in pop culture for the better part of 40 years now in one way, shape, or form. I mean, what do you think of just his overall career? Because remember, his career goes beyond Pee-wee. I mean, we can.
I know. I'm about to mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. We can talk Mystery Men and Blow. Blow, which is a fantastic movie.
Blow is an amazing movie. I love that film.
When he's had a chance to kind of stretch out and get away from Pee-wee for a minute, he's actually been quite impressive. I mean, what do you think of Paul Reubens' career kind of overall?
Yeah, like I said, he's got range. I mean, he can be, a pretty big personality like Pee-wee and, be obnoxious and kind of over the top. But I mean, well, it was kind of a short role, but I was like, I remember he was in the Blues Brothers. He was the guy that sold them the wine. He was like, "Oh, we have a Dom Perignon, 71. He's like, "Yeah, it's fine, pal." I'm like, "There he goes. There's the waiter." I think for me with my childhood, I don't think I knew it at the time, but he was also in Matilda. He was one of the FBI agents that was like watching her father's house. And they came in the garage and they're like, "Hey, where you're going to end up, your dad's going to end up in jail and you're going to be in an orphanage." And I was like, "What the fuck?" It's funny how he can play like a real serious like FBI agent with his eyebrow like all the way to the ceiling, like he's the fucking Rock, like on a. They're not even in inconspicuous cars. They're like watching the house, like right outside. And even the dumb little back and forth where he's like, "It's 9:37." He's like, "I've got 9:38," and he's like, "9:36 is correct," or whatever he said. He's not gonna take that hit on the chin. But yeah. Like I said, go watch anything else he's done. Like Frank said, he's got some range.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? Again, I mean, I'll go down the list of his non-Pee-wee performances in a minute, and they're all it's kind of impressive when you think about it. What did you think of just kind of his overall career, especially the stuff away from Pee-wee Herman?
Paul Reubens himself. He was a very. I don't know if character actor is the right pretense to put him in. It works, but I don't know if it quite fits here. I mean, he's done a lot of things. He did obviously the Pee-wee stuff, and he did the Pee-wee stuff for everything from. I think AJ had pointed it out in the comment section. He was a guest general manager on an episode of Monday Night Raw some years ago. He hosted Saturday Night Live. Pee-wee was such an overpowering character. He kind of got typecast within it because it was such a huge thing. But even his non-Pee-wee stuff, he's Penguin's dad in Batman Returns and in the Gotham TV show. They brought him back for that as well. Obviously Blow has been mentioned. Mystery Men is a great movie. If you haven't seen Mystery Men, go watch that as soon as we're done here. It's like the most anti-Avenger movie you're ever going to go see. It's a lot of fun. Paul Reubens has a very interesting look. He's obviously he had his fun time in a porno theater, which whatever. I don't know what
Yikes.
You're watching an adult movie. What do you think's going to happen? I never really understood that, but his personal problems aside, he's got a solid career. I will say his biggest successes were Pee-wee, but it's such a strong character. It's hard to get out from under that shadow a lot. But to his credit, he did do it. He was a funny guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go down some of his non-Pee-wee stuff. He was in Midnight Madness from 1980, which is one of the great Disney movies for the before the young adult stuff. The YA stuff actually had a name. It was kind of one of the first YA movies that I really got into when I was a kid. He was in the Blues Brothers. He played a waiter. Mm-hmm. He played Pee-wee on screen for the first time in Cheech and Chong's next movie, which was great.
That's what I was thinking. I knew he did something. I thought it was Cheech and Chong.
AJ just said it. Yeah, the Cheech and Chong movie.
Yeah. And then the very next year, he was in Nice Dreams, another Cheech and Chong movie. Then he was in Meatballs Part 2, another great 80s kind of, dick and fart humor. Then Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He was the voice of Max and Flight of the Navigator, which is, I think, one of the top 5 Disney movies ever made. Then he played obviously the Batman stuff. He was Amulet. He maybe the funniest TV death ever in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I thought he was in the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer, not the TV show. No, it was the movie. I'm sorry, it was the movie. Yeah, but when he's got the axe in his chest and he's like, ooh, then he slides down, and then just when you think he's dead, he pops back up and he goes, ooh. I think he even says something to Buffy or something like that. It was one of the funniest movie deaths I've ever seen. There's endless memes that have been made about that. He voiced the raccoon in Dr. Dolittle for the first 2 movies with Eddie Murphy. He was the spleen in Mystery Men, which was kind of right up his alley. Another weird kind of goofy, gothic, odd character that wasn't Pee-wee. Then, of course, in Blow, which I'm not going to lie, I think that might be one of his best movies. Just so damn that entire movie is so good from start to finish. He voiced Jokey Smurf in the Smurfs. Let's see, and then some other animated stuff, and now getting to his television stuff. Believe it or not, he was in an episode of Mork and Mindy back in 1981. I mean, that's going way back. That's going way back. He was the first person, and I think still the only person, to host Saturday Night Live, not as himself, but in character. Which I found.
Well, there for a while, he was listed as Pee-wee Herman on credit rolls, not as Paul Reubens.
The credits do say on this movie Pee-wee Herman as himself.
Yeah,
that's
as himself. Yeah. He even has a star on the Walk of Fame as Pee-wee Herman, not Paul Reubens. So yeah, I mean,
and then getting into some other TV stuff. He did 6 episodes of Murphy Brown, which I had totally forgotten he was in there. Everybody Loves Raymond in early 2000. Ally McBeal.
Oh, he was the comic book guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Ally McBeal, Reno 911, which is a funny as hell show. He was in 30 Rock. He actually did the voice of Batmite in Batman the Brave and the Bold, and 4 episodes of that back in the late 2010s.
Oh my God, I didn't even recognize him. I remember Batmite in that show. I didn't even recognize that was him.
Yeah, somebody already mentioned in the chat. He actually hosted an episode of WWE Raw for all the wrestling fans out in the community. He was the voice of Pavel in that television show Tron Uprising that was on that Disney had out for a while. I haven't watched that show myself, but I do love anything Tron because I grew up in the 80s. He was Mr. Vargas on the Blacklist for 5 episodes. I only remember one of the episodes he was in, but that's a big departure. Let's see. He did voices in the Netflix Voltron show that is out, which I still need to catch up on. I started watching the first season. He did more recently. He was on an episode of The Connors, which I don't watch it because without Roseanne, it's not as good. And his last television credit was a voice for Bob's Burgers, just this year. And then even some video games. He was in The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge. Never played it. I don't know. Minecraft Story Mode, he does the voice of Ivor. Jeremy might be a little more aware of that. I've never played Minecraft really.
Wait, was it Minecraft or Minecraft Dungeons or something.
Minecraft Story Mode and Minecraft Story Mode Season 2.
I was gonna say story mode. Yeah, I was gonna say if it's story mode, I'm like I have no fucking idea because that's like Minecraft is the open world type of deal. That's just you do whatever, make your own narrative, make your own stuff. Story mode is like it tried to actually have characters and have a plot to it. So I'm like that I would have no idea about. I never actually played that one.
Yeah, and in 2016 he actually did the voice of Willard Wyler in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I'm guessing that's the campaign. I haven't played that campaign in forever.
Oh,
so
shit.
And Infinite Warfare was not the best Call of Duty game.
I was like, no, it wasn't.
I think I blew through the campaign, just kind of waited for the next Call of Duty to come out. Then I got back into playing multiplayer. But I'll have to go back through I was just looking over my PS4 games. I was like, yeah, I still have Infinite Warfare. I'm going to have to roll through the and see if I can find them.
All the servers are back open now. So, yeah, you can play whatever Call of Duty you want now. So,
yeah. But, I mean, so away from Pee-wee Herman, the guy's got some – dude, he's got some really good roles. It's kind of unfortunate that he'll be remembered mostly for this because he really did have some acting chops. But at the same time, I think it's kind of fitting. I think he almost, if you could have asked him, 7 years ago before he was diagnosed with cancer, that if he was mostly going to be remembered for Pee-wee, he probably would have been like, okay, that's what I put all my work into. That was my signature thing. I'm kind of okay with that. So I really hope that people remember his career more for his work than they remember for the other stuff. And let's kind of talk about that other stuff for kind of a minute. But first, I want to talk about his death announcement. He did not. I guess he had been battling cancer for 6 years, but hadn't released his diagnosis to the public at all until he passed away. Now, following his death, a statement that was written by Reubens before he died was released. And it says, quote, "Please accept my apology for not going public with what I have been facing in the last 6 years. I've always felt a huge amount of love and respect from my friends, fans, and supporters. I have loved you all so much and enjoyed making art for you." And that was it. Not self-effacing, not self-deprecating. It was just honest. And I really appreciate that from him. I don't know. Tex, I mean, do you read this and do you look past some of the TMZ kind of stuff that was about him in the news for most of the last 20 years that really was kind of stood out more than most of his acting stuff, even the Pee-wee stuff?
It's unfortunate, cancer got him, it gets a lot of us, but he doesn't owe us anything. Oh, hey, I'm sick and here's what I have. Just because I've been on TV before, I don't understand. Yes, we live in a culture of, you have to broadcast everything and tweet it out or X it out or Facebook it or whatever. Yeah, I still hate that damn shit. I don't want it. That's weird. But, he didn't owe us anything. He didn't have to apologize for not telling his private business to the world. I mean, I know, obviously he knew he was close, so that was him saying what he did. But no, that's his private affairs. I'm sure his family knew. I'm sure his close friends knew. But it's none of our business. He doesn't owe us anything because he's famous or we've seen him on TV or movies before. I mean, it's people think they're entitled to a lot of information that you're really not, if somebody doesn't want to share, butt out, and it's unfortunate and, prayers for his family, but, cancer's a private thing, you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
he didn't want to be remembered for me.
Yeah, Jeremy, how about you? I mean, do you remember the National Enquirer scandal rag stuff, or do you remember his body of work more?
I think Pee-wee's a big enough personality that I can look at that and be like, that's what I remember. And obviously, I mean, come on, you can't do tequila and not be like, yeah, I'm gonna dance on this bar table.
Dude,
come on,
you can't hear that song. I can't hear that song and not see that stupid dance that he does. That's right. The first thing that comes.
It's either him or that guy that went on was it America's Got Talent, just stood there and just did the karaoke. So I mean, like I said, something that's I can remember him for, like I said, what he's done, and I can always appreciate someone who's that big of a personality and in this kind of work, it still manages to keep their life pretty private. You know, it's like I can respect that he was like, look, it's something that I'm going to deal with, but I don't know if it's just like, you don't like Tex was saying, you don't owe us anything. Like, you gave us all of this to look back on and still laugh at and enjoy, don't have to burden us with this kind of thing. And but hearing that statement, it's like you can just nod your head and kind of be like, yeah, I respect that. Like, no hard feelings. I was gonna say to leave with a quote from Rocco in Boondock Saints: "Real men hide their feelings. Why? Because it's nobody's fucking business."
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I have a great deal of respect for famous people who, when they have to deal with something like this, they don't put it out there. I mean, some people just want to live their lives out there. They feel like it connects them more to their fans if they are 100% honest, and I understand that too. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do things. That's the way you choose to do it.
That felt honest.
Yeah. But to be in a business like he was in, and to not seek the attention when you would have gotten all of it that you would have wanted and a lot of positive attention, to not want to live like that, to be like that, I think that's a great testament to a person. I mean,
we didn't know about Chadwick Boseman, right, until the end.
Oh yeah.
Like I think even when he first showed up in Civil War, I think he was even dealing with it then. Now we know. But yeah, he didn't say anything about that either. So I was just like, God, man, that's insane. And Maggie Smith from Harry Potter, she was dealing with breast cancer, still filming the movies, and I'm like, God damn, that's impressive.
The minute he comes out and says, "Oh, hey guys, I have cancer, but here's my new movie or TV show that I'm going to be in," people aren't going to talk about the movie or the TV show. They're going to drag you on TMZ and the Today Show or the whatever show to just talk about your struggle with your sickness, and you become a victim. And, I can see why he wouldn't want it mentioned, because he didn't want to be looked at in that light. I mean, I could see that. If I were in his shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. I mean, it's, that I forget what there's a quote about Jigsaw about, because, he had the cancer as well, but how you look healthy on the outside, but on the inside, you're actually sick or whatever. But it's just, the minute he comes out and says, "Oh, I have cancer, but go see Pee-wee's Big Time Adventure 3, nobody's going to care about the movie. They're only going to, poor you. And it just, it drags you down. And he didn't want that negativity on it. I don't blame the guy.
Yeah. And I'll say something else that is not going to be very popular with some people, and I really don't care.
I just said Charlie and Chocolate Factory was better than this movie, so go ahead. I think you're fine. I'm taking the flack for that one. I'll take that one.
Yeah, as far as his legal problem is concerned, let's kind of keep things in perspective for a minute. I mean, what did he get caught doing? He got caught jacking off in Jack-Off Theater. I mean,
right.
I mean, I've never personally been to one of those things. I don't think you guys have either. I don't know your guys' lives, but I mean, we all know what goes on there. I mean, it's like So the fact that that was only news. It was one of those things where it's only news because the person's famous.
It's because of who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most people. I don't get it now. Granted, from what I've read, he wasn't just doing what is done in those theaters. Like, I guess he was being a little rambunctious as well. But I mean,
you just hear him from a couple rows over.
I know you are, but what am I? He's whacking off.
You just sit there trying to watch your movie, do your thing. I'll sit here, Daddy!
Waka waka.
But I mean, let's be honest here. He got in trouble. Look, everything that's happened in Hollywood since then. I mean, he got in trouble for something that, let's face it, is not nearly as bad as what a lot of these guys are getting fucked for in Hollywood now anyway. I mean,
right.
Remember, he got in trouble for this while Harvey Weinstein was at the peak of doing what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah. But so many people in Hollywood were coming to Harvey Weinstein's defense.
Didn't Fred Willard do the same thing that Pee-wee Herman did and nobody cared?
I do not know, to be
I think Fred Willard did. I mean, now Fred Willard's not like a huge actor, but I'm pretty sure he got caught jerking it in a porno theater as well.
When was
I think I remember it.
When was that shit with like Michael Jackson? Was that in the early 2000s or late 90s maybe?
The stuff with Macaulay Culkin, or
well, Macaulay Culkin was in like the 90s, right? But because he was still a kid. I don't know.
But you see, same thing with Fred Willard, though. Here, now, this is Wikipedia, so take it as you will. And this, I'm just going to read this word for word. On July 18th, 2012, Willard was arrested on suspicion of engaging in masturbation in an adult theater.
Oh.
Okay. What do you want to do there?
Congratulations. He was jacking off a jack-off theater. I mean, that's like, what do you expect? However,
cow farm. We're going to make cows outside.
Yeah, there was no proof of any misconduct. No charges were filed despite the outcomes. PBS fired Willard from Market Warriors immediately following his arrest. I don't even know what that was. Reality TV series that follows four professional antiquers. I don't care. Immediately following his arrest, Mark L. Wahlberg replaced him on the show. That's funny. Oh, no, different Mark Wahlberg. That's the game show, this guy. In an appearance on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon shortly thereafter, Willard stated the incident was very painful, very embarrassing. He did nothing wrong. Willard was subsequently required to take a sex education diversion program. So he ultimately got roughly the same thing, maybe not nearly as bad of a punishment as what Paul Reubens got. So,
this obviously, you know, when this happened to Pee-wee, it was much earlier, so it was more shocking. And how dare he, with everybody clutching their pearls like they're a 1950s grandma. But, you know,
but think of the children, Tex.
It took a big, it sidelined his career for a long time. I mean, it put him on the back burner for a while. And, you know, it just, he was jerking at a dirty movie. He wasn't he didn't go see a Marvel movie and, Captain America and Waka Waka. You know, it was a porno. Come on. You know, I mean, it's just,
especially not that Captain America movie from that time. Jesus Christ. Was it, hey, Captain?
You know,
like that. Whatever the hell that movie.
You know, now, if let's say he did that at a public theater to Home Alone 2, then we have another problem. But that's not what the man did. You know what I mean? I guarantee you we can all look back in our past and find something sketchy that we were there for and probably could have gotten in trouble for. But you know what? We just didn't get caught on it. You know, it is what it is. It's real easy to crucify the guy when, you know, he probably wasn't the only one. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, the other thing he got in trouble for... This one's it's a bit harder to wrap my head around. He apparently was a purveyor of erotic art. I am not. I'm just saying, I'm not.
Yeah, I can't defend that one. So.
Well, I mean, it's not, because there's a difference between pictures of someone naked and erotic art. I think there's a clear difference. Because I have a friend of mine who's an artist, and she paints women in the nude. She doesn't like have like the whole like Kate Winslet laying out on the couch painting. She just paints. That's erotic art. I consider that erotic art, but it's art. It's not porn the way that you would see in a magazine or on various websites. So, and apparently some of the artistic pictures that he had or paintings or something like that, unbeknownst to him, were of children. Now, these were older pictures from what I've read, and he didn't have any way of knowing that these were of underage kids. I don't know how you look at a picture, generally speaking, and tell how old someone is. I mean, because I know plenty of people who are 30 and look like they're 12. I know plenty of people who are 12 look like they're 30. So, I don't know. Yeah, Jeremy's awfully young, but compared to me anyway. But I mean, so, and he got some help for that, and I'm like, well, I'm not saying it's okay, and I don't know what his reaction was when he found out. If his reaction was, oh, whatever, I think kids are hot, then by all means, maybe I would look down on him a little more. But if he really didn't know, remember, another very famous person ran into a situation just like this. It was Elton John. Elton John, who himself is a bit of a purveyor of erotic art. He bought some paintings. He bought some paintings that apparently were they were painted not even recently. They were painted like 70 or 80 years ago or something like that. He just liked the way they looked, and so he bought them. And it turns out somebody did some research, I don't know how, but found out that the kids that were the subject of these paintings were children. They were under the age. And he caught some hell for this too. And that raises the question is how the hell do you even know? I mean, I don't understand how that works, but I don't, as far as the art thing is concerned, I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass, and I don't know how he could have known. I don't know. Again, I don't know what his reaction was when he found out. But as far as the stuff in the theater, I'm like, look, we've been giving passes and people in Hollywood, and I've bitched about this a lot with the whole Weinstein thing, with Me Too. We've been giving people in Hollywood passes for the shit that they do to women, and some men, to be perfectly honest, since the inception of the film industry over 100 years ago.
Uh-huh.
You can't decide to get mad at one guy while Harvey Weinstein's over here doing this thing, while Cosby's doing this thing, while person A is over here doing this, person B is over here doing this. You can't pick and choose who you're going to punish for this kind of shit. And we've talked about this a lot on the channel before. It's been a while, I know, but I don't think it's entirely fair to shit on this guy and ruin his career because he's not as important as somebody else who is doing the same and sometimes worse. I don't know. Jeremy, do you agree, disagree? I mean, give me some pushback here. Am I wrong?
No. I mean, if you wanted to compare, I mean, we're talking hindsight now. So you're talking someone like Cosby, someone like Weinstein against, I mean, for what it's worth, Pee-wee Herman, like, it might seem like it's easier to try and go after him. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you can easily point a finger at this guy who just likes to bit bop around his house, making breakfast with a comically oversized knife. You know, and
I want one of those, by the way. I desperately need one of those.
Right, that, yeah.
And it's floppy too. It looks like it's made out of aluminum foil.
I'm like, I can tell it's a prop, but I don't give a shit.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
It's a knife. I have a weird, also weirdly, I think the only thing is I had a really weirdly vivid memory of like that scene before. I was like, I swear I've seen the breakfast scene before, if anything else. Because I remember that damn knife and him just like whoop, licking the end of the knife. And I think I remember my mom saying like, yeah, don't do shit like that. I'm like, well, yeah, you don't stick a knife in your mouth. That's dangerous. Like, what the fuck? That stuck on. I don't know why. Weirdly specific memory. But go back to what I said. Like, it's pretty easy to put your finger at this guy and be like, oh, look, he touches himself. It's like, okay, like, so does everyone else. Maybe in their own home, but like, hey, what'd you expect? What'd you expect them to do? And it might be he's someone who doesn't have that kind of power like Weinstein that can keep everybody on the hush hush. You know what I mean? It's kind of easier to kick a guy like this when he's down because, like, you can say Pee-wee Herman, everyone knows who that is. Like, oh, he did that, and it's real easy. That's always been, this is still pre-internet, but you could vilify somebody like that. It was a good time on that snap. Boom, we're back. Like freaking Thanos over here. But yeah, I don't see why. It's like you got to pick. I guess you got to pick somebody, and it's done that. They probably, like you said, they probably knew people like Weinstein and Cosby were doing shit like this, but they're just like, well, whatever. It's stupid. People they choose to go after, and for whatever reason that may be. I don't like it.
Tex, I don't know. I have a feeling you're going to take a harder stance than I do against this, Tex. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it was fair in the way that he was viewed publicly as Hollywood was doing some of the stuff that it was doing?
In the grand scheme of things, yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and defend him on having the erotic art, as you say. I mean, like, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. How do you define it? If you get hard to it, then does it cross a line? I mean, that's a very, I'm going to use a very bad pun here, but it's a sticky situation, if you know what I'm saying. And
I agree that it's very hard to quantify that because there's still so
much. I mean,
we don't know what was going on in his head, so it really is hard to quantify that. I agree.
Right. You and I could look at a painting, a painting of a naked woman, and one goes, oh, man, I can see the artistic value of the strokes used and the colors used, and one of us could go, damn, nice rack. That'd probably be me. But, I'm not going to defend having artwork of somebody who appears to be younger, that's not something I would have. I couldn't be friends with somebody who had that on their walls at their house. If I went to their house for Christmas dinner and I saw that, I'm getting out of there and I'm not going back. But not knowing all of the facts, I can't speak on that. If I haven't seen the photos, I've seen the accusations, and yes, we know Hollywood has a very disgusting past going back to the beginnings of it. I mean, one thing I can say, you never heard any more than that. You didn't hear I don't think he was ever Me Too'd I don't think Paul Reubens was on any Epstein flight logs that I've ever seen. Who even knows if he may not even bought these paintings himself. He may have had some assistant. He said, "Hey, I want to redecorate my house," and he went to an art gallery and I'll take all 5 of those. It could have been a situation like that. We don't have all the information, is all I'm saying. And I'm not going to give the guy a pass on this, but I'm not going to crucify him right away without having every bit of information here. But I can say having those things is problematic. It's, if you want to have erotic art, fine, make sure they're legal to vote. That's all I'm asking for here. Just get a driver's license first. Make sure they're legal. You know what I mean? So that's all it is.
Yeah, I would never collect erotic art mostly for that reason.
Yeah,
I do not know where these things came from.
Yeah, I mean, I've got kids in my house. I don't need. I mean, I grew up in a household where you kept your, Playboys under the mattress because you didn't want nobody else seeing them. We didn't put it on the wall. You know what I mean? Different kind of lifestyle, I guess. I'm not real sure. Whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know. Whatever you guys might think about that, I don't know. I mean, you guys can go down in the comments section and let me know. But I do think he was treated very unfairly, by Hollywood, considering what they were actively, at the very least, turning a blind eye to what so many other people were doing. I mean, because it's not just Weinstein. I mean, it's plenty of actors and even some actresses over the years have kind of been exposed as being kind of shitty people in Hollywood in one way, shape, or form. So to make such a spectacle out of him, you're not, I mean, especially like you said, in hindsight, it doesn't make you look any better. You actually look kind of even more ridiculous. So not only did you do terrible things wrong sometimes to kids, you also tried to frame up this guy who didn't do anything nearly as bad as you, which is kind of a little bit, I'm going to call it big.
Well,
that's getting too much of a thing.
I can't help but feel that the prior charge of, whacking it in a movie theater, that made it 10 times worse. If that had never happened, it probably wouldn't have even been a story. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that he did have a sexually charged account against him, even though it was in a adult theater, it puts him in a light of a sexual, kind of area that doesn't favor well for him. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's a tough situation. You know what I mean?
He's no Roman Polanski, so I mean, I don't know what we're really putting fingers at here.
Yeah. And they've actively defended Roman Polanski for decades too. A lot of people in Hollywood.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I mean, how many people openly praise Weinstein in their Academy Awards or their Oscar speech? If it wasn't for Harvey Weinstein, I wouldn't be here today. Well, the minute that it's not favorable anymore and your career's gone south, then you attack the guy for what he did, even though he gave you the job that you didn't mind earning. You know what I'm saying? 20 years before. But the movie business is a terrible world. Hollywood is disgusting. I mean, for as much as we all love movies, I think we can all be honest in it's a very shady kind of business. You know what I mean?
I've noticed. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Isn't that what happened to Rose McGowan? Wasn't she like one of the first ones to come and speak about Harvey Weinstein? They just absolutely shit down her neck, and they told her basically shut the fuck up.
Well, that's why I say.
I'm like, damn. Well, I wonder where she went. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, she didn't say that until her career was done, and then here's what Harvey Weinstein did to me 20 years ago. when I'm not getting cast as the hot girl in the movies or the TV shows.
Yeah,
it's all about the timing. Or Cosby raped me 35 years ago. Well, why didn't you say anything until somebody else spoke up? There's questions whenever a lot of this stuff happened, and it's why the Me Too movement was sketchy at best. Because if these things actually happened, why didn't you say something sooner? You lived a whole life, but now because it's on television, you speak up. I have to question your, how much truth are you speaking?
I was gonna say that, like, the problem with it now is, like, it's with any sort of movement. It's like, at first it's a good idea, and it probably does have some legitimacy to it, but then it becomes melded into something that it's not even the same point anymore. And it's like, well, anybody could just come and say, oh, he did this. Can you prove it? No. Good enough. You're gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it becomes dumb. Like,
that was the thing.
Yeah, like Tex said, it's like, you don't even have to. You could just, doesn't matter if you tell the truth or not. But that becomes the sad part, is like, anyone who is telling the truth, you're not going to believe them now. I'm like, yeah, because everyone jumped on that bandwagon and ruined it. The only thing I can say, I guess, contrary to that, is I'm like, well, you probably couldn't say anything, because you don't want to lose that job. You want to keep, like I said, look what happened to Rose McGowan. They just basically shunned her out and told her to shut her fucking mouth. I'm like, well, that's the risk you're taking. But I'm like, also, you couldn't have said anything with these people that are that big in Hollywood, that they could have silenced you quicker than they're like, oh, fucking Rose, who they never knew you existed. After that point, they held that power over you, so I could kind of understand why. And it's like, one person they're not going to believe, but if you get 30, 40 people all saying it now, you kind of like, oh, maybe this happened. And like I said, it had a good idea at first, and you should take things like that with as all seriousness as it needs to be. But you don't need to be sitting here just because you didn't like somebody because they didn't go on a date with you. You're like, oh, hey, he raped me. It's like, did he though? See, that's why I'm like, I don't really believe you until there's like hard evidence or there's something you can prove. Because if you say that and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I don't want to help with the investigation, I'm like, well, that's a big red flag. So you're just running your mouth.
Well, that's the thing though. When it comes to Pee-wee Herman,
can't stand that shit.
I don't recall hearing his name being brought up in a lot of these things. Yeah, the erotic paintings or the whatever were mentioned, and of course the whacking off in the theater. But besides that, I don't recall him ever being brought up in any kind of Weinstein things or Me Too's or Believe All Women or any of this other stuff. I mean, I could have missed something. That's completely possible, but it's real easy to, that whole, like I said, believe all women, no matter what. And I'm not going to make this a different kind of show, but there's a lot of things that you can say about somebody in the court of public opinion, whether they're true or not, that you can convict somebody before the ink's dry on the paper. Mm-hmm. The minute you say it about them, you're done. And, it's a hard thing to get over. You really got to be careful. And I don't know why these celebrities do half the stuff that they do.
I'm still of the opinion that I'm like, what it should be is, if you're found out to be lying about that kind of shit, you should definitely
get the same punishment.
You should get slapped with the charge you were about to give that person if that had been legitimate. And I'm like, watch how fast 100%. That shit stops. Watch how fast that stops. 100%. Because no one has to prove anything. They don't even have to, they don't have to show up for it. Although, again, that's a red flag. They're like, hey, he did this. You're like, can you give us a little more? No. Okay, then. But, honestly, that's what I'm here for, because I'm like, there's no repercussions for it. If it's found out to be false, they're like, well, okay, next. Nothing happens to you. What year did Pee-wee Herman have his theater charge against him? Do you remember? 91.
Somewhere in the 90s, yeah.
91.
Just to say, I couldn't remember what year it was. I was trying to do some research this week. I didn't have a lot of time, but I was trying to kind of place it time period wise, because I knew it basically derailed his career for a long time.
Oh yeah.
But
that last movie came out in 2016, so you're talking from like 88 to 2016 for Pee-wee. So
he did that movie. I mean, it's just, you know, and obviously we live in a world where you have to separate the art from the artist. Like, I love Affleck as Batman. He's my favorite Batman. I love the way he plays the character, the ideals that he gives his Batman. But Ben Affleck as a person, I think he's a terrible person. I've seen him in interviews. Him and I could not be more drastically different, you know, in ideals and everything else. But whenever I watch BVS, I think this is what Batman is to me. You know what I mean? But I don't know what sins Paul Reubens committed. I don't know. None of us do. Only him and his maker do. But I can honestly say that his contributions as Pee-wee were felt deeply to a whole lot of people. And no matter what he did or didn't do, we're not his judge or his jury. And he was never convicted of any crimes that we know of. He may have done something, he may not have. But give the man the credit of he brightened a lot of people's lives with this role. We don't, you know, we can't prove he did any of this bad stuff. Like I said, he may not have been the one that bought those paintings. His assistant could have bought them. Who knows? Like Frank said, erotic art is, well, any art is subjective. You know, I can spit on the wall and say, that's art. Isn't it awesome? Well, look how great it is. Put a frame.
I'm sure somebody's tried that too.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Art is the most.
Some bitch sold her bathwater, so we're living in that kind of world.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Art is subjective. You know, who knows? It's just, you know, we need to be real careful and not go back to the Salem witch trial days, because we could all be burnt probably pretty easy. You know what I'm saying? You got to watch out.
They made a great bit about that in The Walking Dead. Even they go into this office in downtown Atlanta, and Daryl's looking at this picture on the wall in some bigwig's office where he's like, the hell's that? It was like, looks like some dog sat in some paint, just smeared his ass across there. It's like, I bet some rich prick paid a lot of money for that. He's like, it's stupid. And Carol's like, well, no, it's kind of nice, just because she likes to poke at him. He's just like, really? Yeah. If
Hunter Biden can sell his paintings for a ton of money, I guess that we can all be artists at some point.
Sure. You can buy all the cocaine I want.
Let's move on now to some trivia. Now that we've had now we've gone into our soapboxes a little bit about Hollywood. Let's move on to some trivia. Jan Hooks, who was the tour guide at the Alamo, she improvised the dialogue for all of her scenes as the Alamo tour guide.
Nice. Well, that works.
I was literally just there Monday.
Because it makes sense. I mean, she was part of that Groundlings comedy troupe with Reubens and Hartman and all these guys, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's convincing.
That is so funny. Weird. I was literally that's crazy.
It's funny too, because if you listen to her, it seems so scripted. It's so put together. Mm-hmm. So to think that she was able to kind of do that on the fly is actually kind of impressive.
Well, if you've never been to the Alamo, they have the audio tour. You know, where like if you put that picture up of where Pee-wee is, right there, if you look down at the ground where the concrete stops and the grass starts right there behind him, there's a placard, and there's like a 2-page speech about, you know, the heroes of the Alamo and an 18 blah 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 whatever. And I mean, now they've got a little fence around, like a little chain link fence around that grass. But I mean, of course, this has been some time ago. But you know, they do a very good professional tour that you can go take. I think there's like 3 or 4 different tours, different value pricing. But yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, of course, as a Texan, the Alamo is a heavenly place to myself. I actually had family members who fought and died at the Alamo. But
nice.
You know, it's one of those things. So.
Yeah, and being Mexican, we remember the Alamo. Dub.
Hey, you may have got the dub there, but guess what? It took 10,000 of y'all to take down 300. All right. You know, once you go get some more El Caminos, how about that?
It was a close win, but it was a win. We only won by 1 point, but a win's a win in the column at the end.
Take it up.
Let's see. Talking about the bicycle for just a second. Let me find my picture of the bicycle. What did I do with it? I moved a bunch of pictures around. Now I lost it. I don't know what the hell I did with it.
I would love to have one of his bikes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I would too.
I don't.
But
I don't
see,
even, I haven't ridden a bike since I was a kid, but I would have that.
Approximately 10 to 12 bicycles were built for the movie by the Pedal Pusher Bike Shop in Newport Beach, California, a shop that specializes in vintage and classic bikes and bike parts. They were offered $10,000 and no screen credit, or a screen credit only. The shop chose the money. The bike shop had an autographed 8x10 glossy of Paul Reubens that said, "To Mike at Pedal Pusher, ARG," from Pee-wee Herman. I don't know why he put ARG, but I mean, I don't know. What would you guys have done, Jeremy? Would you have taken the 10,000 and no screen credit, or the screen credit? I almost think that the screen credit would have been worth more in advertising. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, but like 10 grand is 10 grand. Man. Like,
well, and that's 10 grand back then too.
True. I mean, that's guaranteed that it's, well, and the other thing is, it's not like anyone's gonna, like, here we are now. Like, we know who did it, and that's, so I don't know. Well, 10 grand to put your bike in a movie. I mean, people are gonna, that's the thing. People are gonna wonder, wait, who made this bike? Where'd that come from? Like that again. That's Pee-wee's bike, man. You're gonna want one, so you're inherently probably going to look into it. And now you got 10 grand and some business. So I'd rather get paid for my work. I'd rather get paid for my work, is what I'm saying.
Were they allowed to sell replicas like, oh, come buy the Pee-wee bike? Were they allowed to market it that way? Because if that's the case, then yeah, you take the screen credit and then you sell your Pee-wee Herman special bike. I mean, I don't know. If you're that big of a company, 10 grand is probably not going to change your bottom line. So I think you go screen credit. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Part of me thinks that the screen credit would have been worth more, but I mean, also, I mean, as today, as I'm sure it was in 1984, especially in 1984, because there was no post-credit scenes. Thank you very much, Marvel. Who was really going to stick around to see that part of the credits anyway? So, I mean, look, as much of a movie fan as I am, until the MCU, I very rarely stayed behind.
Well, I was going to say, hold on there, Mr. 80s. That was Ferris Bueller did that.
True.
Jesus, come on now.
Well,
but when I saw that movie in theaters, I didn't stay to watch it then either. I didn't know about that shit until it hit video.
That's fair.
Or until somebody mentioned it to me. So,
you're not ready for him to walk out there and be like, "What are you still doing here?" It's a fourth wall one too, of all things. Like, what are you doing here?
It didn't say.
No.
The company name wasn't on that bike, like Huffy or whatever. It wasn't written on the tubes of that bike. Yeah, was it? I don't remember it being on there.
I don't think so.
I don't think it was. So I said, because if that's the case, then that screen credit's worth a lot more if you see pedal pushers, on the back plate of it or something. You know what I mean?
True.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure somebody out there as a bike enthusiast has at least a replica of the Pee-wee Herman bike,
right.
Not one of the actual bikes from filming. I'm not exactly sure what happened to all of the bikes that were used in filming. I mean, 10 to 12 of them. There's got to be a couple of them out there somewhere.
They put it right next to the bike from freaking ET.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about Donnie. In kind of a sad little piece of trivia, Paul Reubens mentions in the commentary that during the scene in the movie where he is wheeled out of the bike shop on a gurney, Elizabeth Daly's face went completely white. After filming the scene, he asked her what was wrong. Apparently, she was having flashbacks of her boyfriend at the time, or prior to filming, John Eric Hexum being wheeled off of a movie set on a gurney. He had accidentally shot himself while filming a TV show called Cover Up in 1984. Now, I actually looked this a little bit. Let me give you some of the details. Cover Up was a television show that he was on. It started in 84. I think it ran for about two, maybe 3 years. And in the early part he was filming some of the earlier episodes, and it was in between filming. And he thought that he would be funny, kind of like Terry Kath. You probably know what I'm talking about. Tex, Jeremy. I don't know if you know who Terry Kath was, but
I know that name.
He was in the band Chicago before, like in the very beginning.
Oh, okay.
But and basically the plot of this TV show was they hired a bunch of good-looking model guys to be like spies or secret agents or whatever. And
but why male models?
I don't know, but
Come on, that throws Zoolander.
He was messing around. He was messing around with one of the prop guns and decided, and not knowing that a blank can actually be quite deadly, especially in close range, decided to put a blank in his revolver and play Russian roulette and caught the bullet and caught the round, and ended up the force of the
pressure,
the pressure coming out of the gun actually gave him a serious skull fracture and pushed pieces of the skull into his brain, and he died like 6 days later in the hospital.
Damn. Yeah.
And so that gave her flashbacks. I guess she was on set visiting him. She wasn't in the show, but she was on set visiting him that day when that happened. So she was there when it happened, unfortunately. I don't know, Tex. I mean, that's weird, right? I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, you would understand, you know, and Jeremy as well, as a fellow gun connoisseur, you know, you're trained at the literal beginning of your companionship with that firearm. You don't point at anything that you don't want to kill. That's, you know, whether it's a fake gun, a real gun, or whatever it may. The only gun you're allowed to point at somebody is a water pistol or a Nerf gun. You know, and that's a separate set of rules. But I mean, how many times have we seen in Hollywood, from The Crow to now Rust, and this TV show? I mean, so many people they fool around with these things, not realizing what they can do, and it's just so stupid. Anytime I see somebody with poor gun safety, I want to walk up and slap their hand like a child and take it away from them, because you don't know what you're doing. It drives me absolutely crazy. But I mean, so many people just want to play, cowboy and whatever.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know who Terry Kath was, he was one of the band members of Chicago from its inception all the way up into the 70s. And he also was somebody who liked to play with guns. And one night he was drinking and hanging out with one of his friends that was an administrative part of the band, not a band member. And not understanding the difference between a revolver and a chambered weapon, and a weapon takes a magazine. He was playing around and ended up taking his own life accidentally. So, I mean, you guys can go.
I think we need to put gun safety back in high school. I think that's the problem. Even if you don't own a gun, you should at least know the do's and the don'ts. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
I don't know. These days, there's plenty of places you can go outside of schools to get gun safety lessons these days. I mean, would I like to see it? Sure, but there's a lot of places you can go now that you couldn't go when we were in elementary school, junior high, and even high school. That just weren't available. But that's whatever. Let's see. The drive-in sequence where it was filmed was at the Studio Drive-In, formerly located in Culver City, California. The studio was built in the 1930s and was the first drive-in theater constructed in the state of California. It served as the set for several films, including Grease in 1978. It was closed in 1993 and demolished in 1998. No trace of this drive-in currently remains. I tell you what, the drive-in was a great way to watch movies.
That's sad, man. That's sad to think about. That's something that's that important, and it's just gone now.
As Joe Bob Briggs says, the drive-in will never die. I love the drive-in. It's still my favorite way to watch a movie. I love going to the drive-in down here. To me, it's the most fun way to see a movie. It may not be as immersive as a big IMAX theater or something, but I love the drive-in. It's just, you can lay in the truck bed and watch a movie. What's better than that?
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, there's the one around here. It's probably closer to you than it is to me, Jeremy. It's a good probably 45 minutes away. I haven't been up there for a couple of years. Obviously, during the COVID, the pandemic times, there wasn't anything going on. But I was telling myself this summer I wanted to try to go up there and catch a movie. But I mean, last time I went to a drive-in, I think I saw Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I think I saw that movie up there at that drive-in.
That's
Jeremy probably knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I think I want to say the last time I saw was the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I guess the last time I saw him, so that's like well over 10, 12 years ago now. So it's been a hot minute.
In Santa Cruz, California, where I grew up, we had the Skyview Drive-In. It was right there along Highway 17 in a kind of kind of regular part of town. And I tell you what, that was some of the best Friday or Saturday nights of my life, is going up there. We would go get this back when Little Caesar's pizza used to come in that long like paper sleeve. It sat like the big cardboard plate, and they just slid in that big paper sleeve. We'd get we'd go up there with a bunch of people. We'd get 4 or so Little Caesar's pizzas. We'd go in there and get some drinks or whatever, and we'd sit there. We'd throw the baseball around or whatever, and just kind of hang out until it got dark, and the movie would start. We'd sit there until 1 a.m. watching movies. That was I saw Major League. I saw there. One of the Beverly Hills Cop movies I saw there. I think the last time I went to that drive-in, I had gone home to visit in probably 2001, and my cousin and his young son at the time had not seen the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure it was the last one I went and saw there, and he was just like, "Let's go," and I was like, "Fuck, hey, let's go." So we threw some shit, some snacks in the car, and we went to the Skyview Drive-In and watched Spider-Man, the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So yeah, it was. Then that was the last time I went to my hometown drive-in theater. It was like in 2001, so it was 22 years.
The last time I went was right before lockdowns really started to let up. Now, of course, Texas was letting up on the lockdowns like almost a year before most of the world was. But they were showing older movies because, new ones weren't coming out. So they were showing older stuff. And it was they showed the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was so cool to watch that movie at a drive-in. And the drive-in has it's like a blend of like a 50s and a 60s kind of aesthetic kind of look to it. Like when you drive into the place, it looks like you go back in time. It's really cool. And to see an older movie at a drive-in is so much fun. If you've never been to a drive-in, you need to go to one. If you can find one local. It's just so cool.
Derek just said Twister. I'm like, that's a hilarious movie to watch at the drive-in.
I was just about to point that out. I'm like, I almost don't believe it. I almost don't believe it.
If you can watch
I want to believe it
while they're watching. Watch Twister while they're watching the Shining on their drive-in, right. and then maybe like have your phone out watching The Shining on your phone. Just have like a real, just get real, like depth into that world. That would be a lot of fun. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Derek also said before that, he said, my parents used to sneak me and one of my brothers into the trunk while my other 2 brothers in the backseat. Oh, I've got stories. We made that a game. And what's funny is like when I was a kid, I think everybody there at the little gate area where they would sell tickets, I think they all knew people were doing it. I just don't think they really cared. But I mean, it was kind of a fun game to play. It's like, who's going to hide this time? Where are we going to hide? And so it was really funny because it's like if I know that they were like in their little whatever hut, and they were looking in the car, and they're like, you have like 5 pizzas, 3 or 4 2-liters, and like a grocery bag full of snacks and candy, and there's 2 people in the car. It's like, we know you're full of shit. Somebody, but whatever.
Derek said he did, but to be honest, apparently it rained the night and ruined it. I'm like, I think you mean that enhanced it. It gave you the real Twister experience.
Yeah, that would have been very intimidating. Oddly enough, the Skyview Drive-In that I went to was actually still there, but they took the screens down years ago because what they used to do was like on Saturdays and Sundays or Friday, Saturdays and Sundays. I forget. I think maybe it's been Saturdays and Sundays. They would have the flea market there. So technically the place is still there. They just took the screens down probably 10 or 15 years ago, and now it's just a flea market on the weekends. I've heard a million times that they were going to tear it down and put like a hospital there or something like that. But I mean, last I checked, it was still there. I've been home in a few years, and nobody really talks about it anymore because it's it's not a theater anymore. But drive-ins are great. I love drive-ins. Let's see. On the DVD commentary, let me get on the picture that will go with this. Paul Reubens said that he told Alice Nunn, no matter what the film made in cinemas, her character of Large Marge would be the one remembered. He said he met her shortly before her death and told him that she was glad Paul told her because she would have been completely shocked otherwise. I mean, yeah. I mean that scene is kind of iconic in theaters. Actually, I don't think I put that on here. That's one of the scenes that was actually on a list of scariest scenes from a non-horror movie, like the top 100
Oh,
scariest
yeah.
scenes from a horror movie. Because it's like, I never really thought it was scary when I was a kid seeing it. It was way too cartoonish. But still,
Well,
I was
it's
like,
claymation.
You're not expecting that either, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Go back and after we're done here, y'all go back and watch this scene and literally pause it at the beginning. And prior to her turning, they have the evil face on. It is a very scary scene. Like I said, there's horror tones to this film that you could see Tim Burton developing his style even in this first movie. I mean, it's very much there from to the Nightmare Before Christmas and the Edward Scissorhands and everything else that he did. There's this to be a fantasy comedy film, it's got a scary edge to it. You put a different score on this movie, it'll play a whole lot different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely see the early influences of Tim Burton in this, like the whole nightmare sequence when he's seeing the bike being operated on and then lowered into the whatever to be melted. That stuff. I mean, it's got some dark tones to it at times.
Even so Francis is kind of scary.
Yeah, you're definitely seeing a little bit of the what was that kind of vision to come from Tim Burton.
Right.
But did you guys know that Corey Feldman actually was originally offered the role of Francis Buxton, but he turned down the role due to scheduling conflicts in another small movie that came out in 1985 called The Goonies. Paul Reubens as Pee-wee
Who's
Herman.
ever heard of that movie before?
Yeah, really. Paul Reubens as Pee-wee Herman did visit the Goonies set once, as both films were actually being shot on the same lot at the same time.
Huh. When he could still walk over there and be like, "Hey, you guys!" You know what I mean?
I do believe that we were probably better off with Corey Feldman doing the Goonies. Well, I don't think if he would have played the role the same way.
Yeah.
Francis needed to be. Go back to what I said at the beginning of this. We have two rich man children with Pee-wee and Francis. They've both got more money than they know what to do with. I mean, look at the comically oversized silverware that Pee-wee uses. You got to be rich to have that. But it really shows. Francis says, "Oh, well, my dad says I can buy whatever I want." Blah 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 blah. And of course, they put the fat guy in like the one-piece clothing that makes him look even worse than he actually is. It's just completely unflattering. And you've got Pee-wee in the tight gray suit that looks like he's out of a 19. Yeah, he looks like he's out of a 1950s, sitcom or something.
Yeah.
The visual gag of skinny and fat, it plays well. It was better that they were that different. You know what I mean?
Expect them to walk in like Dick Van Dyke and fall over the fucking ottoman and do a roll, like I can totally see it.
Right.
Tarek brings up a good suggestion. We should have had a secret magic word for tonight's show.
How did we not think of that? Oh my god!
Damn it!
That was Pee-wee's Playhouse. That was Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but still, that would have been a fun little nod.
If that was, Jeremy would have had to have been Cowboy Curtis, because that would have just must have been done. Or the chair. He should have been the chair if we were reviewing Pee-wee's Playhouse. But, yeah.
I would have just dressed up like Morpheus, but still put the cowboy hat on. Like that would have been funny.
This is cosplay on 3 different levels.
You know damn well who I was trying to be. Yeah.
Let's see. When Pee-wee is hitchhiking to the Alamo, the Texas shaped sign he holds up has a big star indicating his destination. The star isn't over San Antonio, home of the real-life Alamo. It's actually over Brackenville, home of the Alamo facade used in many Western and period movies.
He needs to move that. He needs to move that star below the a few inches, and then you're in a similar location. But he's a few hundred miles away from where the Alamo City actually is. So historically inaccurate.
But it makes so. I mean, not really, because where the star is, they have an Alamo set. So I mean,
right.
I mean, really, if you think about it, it kind of makes it's a nice throwback to movies. It's a nice little movie making Easter egg. So
Right.
I got down with it. Let's see.
I would love to have that sign I hope that movie prop didn't get destroyed and it's sitting in somebody's collection right now, because I would love to have that hanging on my wall. That would be so cool.
There was a TV show that I watched off and on for a few years. I don't know if it's still on TV because I haven't had cable in 10 years or more. But it was about movie props, and I remember there was one where they had the sidecar for the 60s Batmobile, the Bat Cycle in the 60s Batman show.
Really?
And they actually had
they had the Robin one with the R on the front. Oh
my god! I don't recall exactly what it looked like, but they actually had Burt Ward, who played Robin in the 60s TV series. They actually had him come in and look at it, and he was like, "Holy shit, that's exactly the one. That's the one that I wrote in."
Wow.
Holy sidecar, Batman!
Yeah, and they went and found all these things, and like they bought some. They were donating some of them to museums and stuff like that. But I mean, that's what this guy did on this TV show. Was he would actually go around and find different pieces of like movie history, different props and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, there was a video of, I forget who did it. I don't know if it was Adam the Woo or somebody else, but they're closing down this huge section of. If I can find the video, I'll send it to you guys to watch. But they're closing down this huge section of the backlot at either Warner Brothers or Universal, I forget. And the list of things that they filmed here is amazing. I mean, they filmed like Psycho, and they filmed WandaVision. Wow. Like they had built this entire like cul-de-sac little neighborhood like in the backlot.
Oh,
they filmed the closing scene, the last couple episodes of WandaVision where she's fighting with Agatha were filmed there. I mean, the house that from the first Lethal Weapon where him and Gary Busey are fighting at the end of the movie, that house was there. Yeah. The house where they filmed the Partridge Family was like 2 streets away. The house that the Griswold's house from Christmas Vacation was like on the next street over. I mean, it's like this like little cul-de-sac, this little small little mini neighborhood they had built. I mean, they had been filming stuff there since like the 70s. All kinds of shit, and they were tearing it all down and leveling it all because they were either selling the land or they were going to rebuild it for something or other. But I was like, Jesus Christ! They had filmed so much. Like Malcolm in the Middle had filmed a lot of the interior shots there of the house and stuff like that. It was amazing just to have this guy walked around. The video is about 45 minutes long. And I was just completely engrossed in all of it. And I was thinking to myself, this is a place of movie history. I love this is one thing that gets me into movies. It's like the props, the history of all this stuff is why I like movies. It's fucking awesome.
Why do you think I like props and special effects so much? I mean, it's a tangible thing. It's just cool to see. Like I watch a guy on the internet that's like, he's like, hey, this little part of the Terminator, that's like part of a car carburetor or some dumb shit. Or like, here's how they made the little scanner in Aliens. It's a big hand drill. I'm like, how do you what? We went to the store the other day and I saw this like 3-pronged like a hair curler, and I'm like, I see a weird sci-fi weapon in there somewhere. I don't see it. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm already seeing shit. Like, or I saw some, was it a back scratcher or some shit? And I'm like, that looks like I saw a screwdriver from Doctor Who. Give it a paint job, put some crap on there. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. Let's see. The scene is, let me pull up one of the biker scenes. Good God, I pulled up a lot of pictures for this. I won't even use half of them. But let's see. In the biker bar when Pee-wee was dancing, Paul Reubens really did hit his head, so the reaction was real. I'm trying to remember when it looked like he hit his head at all.
Probably when he first steps up on the bar, because he gets those platform shoes from the guy behind the bar or whatever. Which I highly doubt that guy that works in the knockoff Hell's Angels biker bars wearing white platform shoes that John Travolta probably had in Saturday Night Fever. He probably beat up for those. But
you don't know. It could have
been
like the bar in Fanboys. You go in there, you think they're a bunch of tough dudes, and it's like, this is a gay bar. Oh, crap.
It's a gay bar.
Yeah. What was it? They were the Satan's Helpers, or what were they in this movie? I can't remember.
Satan's Helpers. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, they were. That just. I love that part of the movie. First we're going to hang him, then we're going to shoot him, then we're going to kill him, then we're going to set him on fire. No, let me have it. If you haven't seen this scene, it's on YouTube. Go watch it. It's so stupid, but it will make you laugh. I mean, you've got these idiot bikers drunk out of their mind, and then Elvira herself steps up and says, "No, let me have him." I would have jumped on her at that point, but it is what it is. So, what you got?
That's very weird. I think we may have had a YouTube thing, but I'm going to keep on going because I think it'll be okay in the end. No, I noticed the viewership drop off really bad, but it's starting to come back up. So I'm thinking whatever happened is working itself out, and that will make me very happy.
Did we get knocked out?
Let's see. I don't know. It was definitely a YouTube problem. It wasn't me, which makes me happy because usually it's me.
It's always a YouTube problem. Don't sell yourself short like that. It's never is.
Yeah. But let's see. I've been holding on to this picture for a while. I'll sit up there for you, Tex. The map in Pee-wee's basement is not a map of Burbank, but it's a map of San Francisco, which I don't understand why. It's the map of a place that's 4 hours north of where you are. I don't get it. But anyway, there's Francis in all his glory right out of the bathtub.
Yeah, there's Francis, a.k.a. the future John Wayne Gacy. I mean, he very much plays the bad guy very well. So I plugged the John Wayne Gacy movie earlier. I think it's just called Gacy, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen it, it's he plays the role very, very well. You believe him when he's Pogo the Clown and he's doing all of his, it's kind of funny. He plays a guy who dressed up as a killer clown, and there's a spooky clown in this movie too, where he's the bad guy. It's kind of odd how that happens, but it fits.
Yeah, it's still saying the stream couldn't be created, but it looks like I'm watching it on my phone, so it looks like we're in good shape.
So am I. We're back up to. Yeah, I think we're okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching on my phone, so the stream's looking pretty good.
Same.
So, to my two horror fans, you guys want to know something I think you guys would be very interested in? Have you guys heard of Darla the dog?
Darwa or Dharma?
Darla.
Darla.
Oh, Darla.
Darla the dog.
Darla the dog.
I know of Cujo, but no Darla.
So I'm trying to think. I can't place Darla.
This film is the screen debut of Darla the dog. Although she is uncredited as one of the pets escaping from the pet store fire, she has been featured in numerous films, including the role of Queenie in The Burbs in 1989, and get this,
really?
Precious in Silence of the Lambs. And she was also the dog that one of the girls is holding in one of the Batman movies. I forget which one it said. Darla is not only one of the dogs that comes out of the pet shop, but she's also the dog that was painted pink for the very end of the movie. The pink poodle that pops out of the basket. Yeah. That's Darla the dog, the same dog that was in the pit. With Precious, it was down in the pit with the.
Wait! No, that's the dog from Batman Returns. Is that the one you're talking about?
I was gonna say, I think Returns, maybe. Right?
I think it was Returns. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was one of Penguin's clowns or whatever. That. Yeah. Okay.
I forget exactly which one, but she actually has her own Wikipedia page. I mean, it's not a very long one, of course, but it just kind of tells you the 4 or 5 movies that she was in. She was in 1 or 2 TV shows, and it said that she retired at the age of 16 or 17 to a home in Thousand Oaks, California, where a year later she passed away or something like that from natural causes. Right. But yeah, so this has This movie has a connection to Silence of the Lambs and Batman. Darla the dog, Precious.
Well, cool. I'm not surprised about the connection to Batman. I mean, considering Burton made both of these, he probably, he's just like everybody else. I mean, he's got certain people that he likes to work with. So, I'm not surprised there.
Yeah, Larry, we are definitely going to do more retro movie reviews, especially in the coming days and weeks with the writer's strike and actor strike kind of ruining everything. We actually have an entire playlist of retro movie reviews. You can go back and look at a bunch I've done with these guys. I did with Aaron, 1 or 2 I did kind of on my own early on the channel, but there will be more coming, and there's a whole playlist you can go check out of different movies. So, and if you have any suggestions, obviously let us know. I mean, we try to schedule them a couple weeks ahead of time to give everybody a chance to find them, because they're not always easy to find, but we try to make sure that they're easy enough to find that we can get them done fairly quickly. But yeah, we have a whole playlist down there. I hope you can go check it out. But I don't know if you guys noticed Pee-wee's number or not when he was putting up the signs. Pee-wee's phone number in the movie is 354-8567. That's a departure from the usual thing in film where they just put it as a 555 number. I never actually tried to call that number. I noticed it when I was watching the movie yesterday, but I didn't think to call it. I mean, again, there's no area code. There's just a prefix.
Just to say, there's no area code on it now. It wouldn't work.
He lives in California, right? I mean, you can maybe narrow it down, but
it's based in SoCal, in the Burbank area. The way that I put it together, because the Burbank police are there. I mean, the Warner Brothers lot is in Burbank.
That's true.
Let me go do a quick look. 354 prefix. I'm just wondering. 354. 354 prefix.
We're calling somebody's house right now.
Paging, Mr. Herman.
You wouldn't be calling California. Let's see. Locations for telephone prefix 354 from the direct. This is from the directory.org. Let's see. Come on, scroll down. 354 is. See, I guess it is now inactive, but let's see. It was for, as I'm reading it here, it was for Alaska.
Oh, okay. A little bit different climate than Southern California.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but honestly, area codes and prefixes have changed a lot in California. I know right after I moved here from California, it went from a 408 area code to an 831 area code. So, and I know a lot of the prefixes have changed too. So maybe it actually was a good number back in 1985. Now, though, probably not. I am curious. I don't know. I may have to hit whitepages.com after the show and type that number in and see what it comes up as. But whatever.
Yeah, I watched this last night. I saw the number, but it just I didn't pay it no mind. I just blew right past it. Whatever. I guess I don't know. It didn't call out to me. I guess. What you gonna do?
I was also more concerned about where he was going to find the $10,000. It's like Dottie said, how are you going to pay anybody that kind of money? Well, obviously, it's going to be the fucking person who took my bike. And they don't deserve a reward. God damn it.
Let's see. Tex, you're probably a car guy, much more than me. I mean, Jeremy's he probably knows as much as I do about cars. We're not necessarily car guys, but you might get a kick out of this. The car that Pee-wee gets picked up in by Mickey is a 1959 Edsel Corsair convertible.
What's weird? I knew that was an Edsel only because of that middle grill part, because I'm really jumping around here. the reason I know this, because from was it in '68 they made the movie The Love Bug about Herbie, because what he tells them, he's like, hey, I need to borrow your wheels, and he's like, okay, but you're gonna have trouble getting it started. He goes out in the garage, he's like, well, where is it? He's like, don't tell me you cut apart the Edsel. And it just zooms in on that same very iconic middle grill, and I was like, oh, he's like, oh, I don't know, something just kind of came over me all of a sudden. I was like, wow, I never forgot what that looked like. I saw that and I just weirdly noticed. I'm like, oh, that's an Edsel. I know what that is.
It's a very distinguishable car, but I think the funniest thing about that scene is whenever he's pretending to be a woman, he doesn't change the Pee-wee voice. He still has that same Valley Girl knockoff Pee-wee voice. He doesn't the Pee-wee voice is basically a impression of the Valley Girl, kind of way of talking anyway. But I've always found it funny. He doesn't change the voice whatsoever when he's trying to be the opposite sex. So
because you never break character, damn it, never. As an actor, I know that. Don't break character for anything. Unless someone's like,
oh, are you on strike right now too, there, Mr. Actor? Are you out marching with your side?
No, I'm going to get paid this summer or this season. So,
okay.
I didn't sign into any union, so I'm working for my money.
So you're scabbing, eh? Is that what you are? You're scabbing there, boy?
I'm just trying to.
All right.
It'd be hard out here, man. I'm just trying to live. All right.
You guys want to know who could have played Dottie? So
Please.
Lori Loughlin, I'm sorry, Laura Dern, Phoebe Cates, I love Phoebe Cates, Leah Thompson, and Jennifer Jason Leigh were all considered for the role of Dottie.
I don't know why I was gonna say. I'm like, if you say Leah Thompson, I'm not gonna be surprised.
So,
but
Leah Thompson. So we could have had ties to Back to the Future, and Lori Loughlin. She was in Full House, right?
Yeah.
yes.
She was Aunt Becky or whoever from Full House.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Laura Dern, we know from like Jurassic Park and shit like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
They had some big hitters up. I still would have picked who we got, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to go against Leah Thompson now. I mean, that's a big get right there. Now, let's see, had Back to the Future, that had.
It's the same year.
What year did that come out?
The same year, 85.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it came out before. I thought it was 84 when it came out. Okay, I guess I was wrong. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
Now, for me, Jennifer Jason Leigh would have been kind of awesome. And this is just a couple years removed from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I was gonna say
And she was so good in that movie. But for me, it's like, come on. I had, you guys can't see it back there, but I have the pop figure of Phoebe Cates in the red bikini from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, right.
Quite possibly the sexiest thing that has ever happened on camera.
Can you blame him? I mean,
so that was. I have seen pictures of Lori Loughlin back in the 80s. She was kind of young and hot. I don't know though if that would have worked out so well. I kind of like what Elizabeth Daily did with.
I don't remember her doing anything before Full House, to be honest with you. But nothing that was on my radar.
She did some like random TV shows and stuff. I think Full House was like one of the first two really big things that she did. And then I think after Full House, the first run of Full House ended, she ended up doing like a lot of like the Lifetime movies and shit like that. Kind of made her career with that. Then she married some stupid guy and then paid for her kid to get to Stanford and all that kind of shit. But yeah, her and her husband are some of the people that ended up getting hit pretty hard for the whole Stanford tuition bribery thing. I don't know if look at here. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that, but there's a bug in here and it's pissing me off. But
I remember a lot about that.
But yeah, you guys.
I don't know. I still think Leah Thompson, like, if it wasn't going to be EG like it was, I think Leah would have been the best route to go out of all of those.
I don't think so. I like the fact that Dottie is not like super hot. I mean, she's kind of super hot in the movie. But
I think Dottie. I think she's gorgeous. E.G. Daily is I forget what the movie is, but there's one where she gets at least topless in the movie. I don't know if she gets all the way naked, but you get to see quite a bit of her in the films that she does for Rob Zombie. In Devil's Rejects, she's like lingerie, and then 31, I think she's topless as well, or like sheer. I mean, she's almost naked, but you know, we get two spots.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rachel just carried Speck through the back of the scene back there.
Speck was sitting here, and suddenly now it's playtime in the middle of the stream. So,
yeah, I could see Jennifer Jason Leigh. I could have seen it. Laura Dern, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll never knock Phoebe Cates in anything, but especially anything 80s. I just feel like some of those girls like were a little too hot. I kind of like the fact that Elizabeth Daily has kind of this very average, everyday girl look about her. It's like some women are so hot they look unattainable. She looks like someone that could have been like she could have been in the average guy's league. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's why I kind of liked her in the role in the end.
I wouldn't call Leah Thompson hot either. I would put her in the same scale as No, I'm not saying she's ugly. I think she's a beautiful woman, but hot. I don't think I would put her in that scale now. Of course, it's the eyes and the beauty of the beholder or whatever. But I think she's more similar to E.G. Daily than the rest of that list.
She's a lot closer.
I don't know.
I think she's closer than Lori Loughlin, Laura Dern, or Phoebe Cates. But like I said, Jennifer Jason Leigh was the only
I'd agree with that.
Like Jennifer Jason Leigh was the only girl on that list that I think looks at the time anyway looked like kind of an average girl, not so much out of an average guy's league. But did you guys know that there's a little bit of a Terminator connection here?
Really?
Yes, Pee-wee's house is the house that was Pee-wee's in the film anyway, is only half a mile from the restaurant where Sarah Connor worked in the Terminator, the original Terminator, 1984.
That's awesome.
Jesus Christ! If we could have gotten Paul Reubens to play Kyle Reese and go back, that would have been incredible. Could you imagine how different that franchise would be if Pee-wee Herman was the father of the savior of the human race?
You just see Sarah Connor on her way home fucking walks by Pee-wee's house. Like, yeah.
Sarah Connor's walking by the past house and hear, that Pee-wee Herman laugh. That could have been great. That would have, oh my God. I am now forever going to put those in the same universe that Pee-wee's Big Adventure happens inside of the world of Terminator. That is now headcanon for me. So,
that would have been great to see the Terminator kind of walk through one of the shots when he's looking for his bike. You just see Arnold walking through the shotgun and the leather jackets and shades. Like,
oh yeah, Arnold comes back. Give me your clothes. And he's wearing Pee-wee's suit, red bow tie.
Oh no!
Oh, that's funny. I love that. Oh, that's good.
In the scene in which Pee-wee saves the animals at the pet shop, Paul Reubens wasn't acting when Pee-wee is forced to save the snakes and runs out of the pet shop screaming, as Paul Reubens was terrified of snakes. The scene could not be done with fake snakes. They tried, but fake snakes would not work. And Tim Burton insisted Paul Reubens did the scene with real snakes, and Paul Reubens trusted Tim Burton, so did the scene. In a weird twist of irony, Tim Burton is afraid of monkeys. Wow. And the monkey is the one that helps Pee-wee get all the animals that he enlists to help get all the animals out of the burning pet shop.
Wait, didn't he make Planet of the Apes?
He did, but there were no real monkeys on set.
I was gonna say
we don't talk about
it. Was just Andy Serkis in a mocap suit.
The biggest irony is he did that. I know we don't talk about that god awful fucking.
That the scene where Mark Wahlberg makes out with one of the monkey women. That's just wrong on all kinds of levels.
Get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
You damn dirty human.
Right.
Isn't that? I think they call that damn dirty human in the Tim Burton remake. I watched it. The only thing I remember about his Planet of the Apes was the girl in that movie was smoking hot. I can't remember her name now, but good Lord, did that one look good.
Yeah, that was the one with Mark Wahlberg, right?
Yeah,
that was one. Yeah. That was one with Mark Wahlberg, where by the end of the movie, the Abraham Lincoln statue has a Abraham Lincoln. Yeah,
it's Abraham Lincoln. I was just like so confused. I had the same look as Mark Wahlberg's face. I was like, "What the fuck?" But I was in like a different like WTF moment. I was like, "Huh?" What?
Yeah, that movie was.
It don't hit the same as you blow it up. Damn you!
Yeah, he's no Charlton Heston.
No.
I'm not a fan of Marky Mark myself, but he's
come on.
I much prefer Charlton Heston to Marky Wahlberg.
Yeah, one of the things we've already kind of talked about a few times already is I take that picture down because I don't need it anymore. Is let's see, Paul Reubens and Diane Salinger both had cameos in Tim Burton's Batman Returns in 1992 as Oswald Cobblepot's parents, and of course Paul Reubens would again be Penguin's dad in Gotham. So yeah, that's not directed by. Actually, did Tim Burton have anything to do with the Gotham TV series? I don't remember.
No, the Gotham series.
I don't remember either.
I think so.
The Gotham series was made by the guy Simon Fuller, the guy that did the Mentalist TV show that was on CBS for a while. The Gotham TV show, it was like a weird amalgamation of like all the different Batmans from movies and '66 and whatever. Like they kind of pulled a little bit from all of it, and they got Pee-wee Herman back to play Penguin's dad in one of the later seasons. He didn't have a lot of episodes, maybe 3 or 4, but no, Tim Burton is, to my knowledge, he didn't have anything to do with it.
I just can't with the guy who plays Penguin.
Yeah, I don't think he did either.
In Gotham, because he was also in The Walking Dead, and I was like, and your hair still dyed like bleach blonde.
Gotham,
I'm like, yeah.
Gotham is not a. Gotham is a hard show to watch. The first season, you have to really, really, really work to get through it. And they don't make it any easier on you. Like at one point, Penguin is in love with Riddler, and then like they get fast and loose with like at one point, almost all of the villains are active and like Scarecrow is a full on Scarecrow, and Bruce Wayne's still like 15 years old. So it makes no sense. But Gotham was a weird ride.
Kind of like the Joker movie. It's like, why is he like a 47-year-old man and Bruce Wayne's like a child? I was like, what?
Well, that's what's so funny. Gotham had 3 different Jokers, but WB wouldn't allow Fox to use the name Joker. He could not have green hair,
Right.
but they could do versions of Joker. So you had Jeremiah, you had Jerome, you had people who inspired the Joker. Like it's just if you've never just go. There's documentaries on YouTube people have done about how odd Gotham is, but yeah, I'll watch the majority of the show. It's really odd at times.
I guess I don't feel bad for not having watched it. I was kind of just like, I don't know.
Dude, I'm as hardcore of a Batman fan in his world as you are, and it was hard for me to get through. It's one of those things.
At least there's somebody credible that we can trust, like Jada Pinkett Smith in that show. I mean, that's what carries it, right?
Oh, dude, she plays Fish Mooney on that show. I hated her the entire way through that show. She was awful.
She seems a little infuriating, yeah.
Oh my god!
It makes you want to go slap somebody, doesn't it?
That was gonna happen. That joke.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see. Let's talk cameos. Did you guys catch them all? I mean, yeah, Cassandra Peterson, aka Elvira. We know about her. She was biker mom at the bar. But did you guys know the man dressed up in the red armor with the high voice during when Pee-wee first gets to the Warner Brothers set? That was John Paragon. He was actually Jambi, rather. I'm sorry, Jambi. And he was the voice of Terry in all the Pee-wee TV shows.
I figured that had to be something because I'm like, you don't just stop and specifically talk to this person for no reason in the movie. So yeah, I didn't catch that, but I knew it had to be something.
Yeah, Lynn Marie Stewart, who was the impatient Mother Superior in Kevin Morton's movie, was Miss Yvonne in the Pee-wee TV shows, the most beautiful woman in Puppetland or whatever the hell they would call her. I forget.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was her. I saw a recent picture where she's not nearly as hot as she once was.
We see there's those nuns right there in that shot you're showing. I always wondered, because those hats are exactly like the ones. Do you remember the old TV show, The Flying Nun? It had Sally, what's her face?
I was wondering
from Smokey and the Bandit.
It's Sally Fields.
Sally Fields, yeah. She played the Flying Nun on that TV show decades ago.
I
always wondered, were those hats and like an Easter egg or like an homage to that show as well?
Maybe.
I was wondering because that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe it's just some tropey thing that they do in movies to kind of make it more outlandish. Because I mean, I know a nun, and she doesn't dress in the whole habit and the headdress and all that. She dresses very regular. So
right.
So I don't know if those are actual nun garments anymore. I mean, maybe they are in some kind of group. I'm not 100% sure.
Some kind of
let's see. But did you also catch? Let me go back to my list of them here. Let's see, Phil Hartman. Obviously, you probably noticed Phil Hartman towards the end of the movie. Phil Hartman is actually in the movie a couple different times. He is actually the voice of the announcer at the rodeo. There's a voice over a loudspeaker when he's in Texas at the bus station. But then you actually get to see Phil Hartman. He's one of the reporters interviewing Francis at the drive-in. He was actually Captain Carl, of course, from the Pee-wee TV show.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love Phil.
Yeah,
Hartman.
Phil Hartman. He was. If it wasn't for him, Pee-wee Herman, probably wouldn't exist the way that it does. He was just as instrumental as Paul Reubens himself to this entire world. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's a shame Hartman went out the way that he did, but the dude was a very, very smart comedian, very funny man.
Yeah, cut down in his prime for sure. I mean, you guys can go do some Googling, hit the Google box and hear what happened to him. But yeah, absolutely tragic. I mean, just really, really terrible. One of my favorite movies that I get to watch him in is Sergeant Bilko with Steve Martin. That's one of my favorite stupid movies. It's so ridiculous, but I just can't take my eyes off any scene in that movie. It's so good. We talked earlier about Professor Tanaka. He was Francis's butler. You know him from all the wrestling days, I'm sure. Lots of wrestling fans, especially old ones like me, are probably going to remember him. But also, you guys saw the movie in the movie, James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild as PW and Dottie in the film within the film.
Yep.
That purports to be based on Pee-wee's experience. As a gag, Brolin's character is only called P.W. Herman because it would make little sense to have a big, strong man called Pee-wee. Despite this, the movie is still called Pee-wee's Big Adventure in the movie.
I thought it would have still been a pretty funny comedic beat if they just kept calling Brolin Pee-wee. So I try to be all serious, like, I need to park the X1. It needs to cool down a little bit. Like, I don't know. It would have been pretty funny. But, artistic liberties, whatever, for a movie about his life. Shit.
Also, did you guys know that it's kind of funny that in the movie, when they're watching at the drive-in theater at the end, he refers to himself as Herman, P.W. Herman, or something like that, kind of like Bond, James Bond. Mm-hmm. Ironically enough, I mean, for one, that's a couple of Bond callbacks. For one, he asked Pee-wee what he's getting his supplies for earlier in the movie. He says, James Bond kind of stuff, which is like, what are you going to do with a fake mustache for James Bond? But ironically enough, Brolin actually auditioned for the role of James Bond just a couple of years earlier for the movie Octopussy. Ended up not getting the role. Yeah.
Well,
and
of course,
I don't know if you're going to. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to go on the next thing. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I do have one piece of trivia that I know you both are going to like. I was going to wait to see if you got to it or not. I was going to play it at the end, but I'll go ahead and see what you were going to do.
Well, I was going to say Tim Burton is actually in the movie a couple of times, too. Tim Burton is the thug who accosts Pee-wee just before he enters the fortune teller's studio. He is also the one who makes the growling noise that you hear when Large Marge gets that whole the claymation expression on her face.
Nice.
He's the one that did the growling voice.
That makes sense.
Yeah. If you guys go to IMDb's trivia, there's all kinds of shit here about it. I mean, I wish I could have gotten to all of it. Some of it's not very interesting, but when I hear during the entire time Large Marge tells her story, she never blinks, which I didn't notice until I read this.
I was like, I noticed she's just kind of very just like staring straight ahead, just like telling her story. I'm like, okay, weirdo.
With both of y'all being big Kevin Smith fans, I thought y'all would appreciate. Y'all do realize that Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is an homage to this movie, right? Kevin Smith, whenever I was doing research earlier today about it, he even quoted whenever he made Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back about the whole going on the road trip and everything else. Kevin Smith said that was him making his version of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And when you really think about it, it makes sense, right? It plays like that could be a very cool back-to-back if you wanted to watch them together or whatever. I think that I kind of want to do it now, but
well, like I said,
it would.
Well, there's your connection. I mean, it's kind of the same beats as Fanboys going across the country from Ohio to California just to go see episode 1 of Star Wars. And guess who else was in that movie?
Right.
It was Kevin Smith and Jay Muse and
right.
the stud.
Well, I just
That's it. I don't want to do this anymore, man.
I just thought Kevin Smith was such a big fan of this movie, he wanted to do his own version with, he did with his own characters, Jay and Silent Bob, which we're all fans of.
Yeah, I buy that because he's a fan of movie history as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I totally buy that. But that's probably a good place to start wrapping things up. We ran a little bit longer than I wanted, but not so bad. So real quick, Jeremy, kind of give a breakdown. What are some of your final thoughts on Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Yeah, it was a big adventure. Wheels are spinning like a bike. I don't know. I don't really know. Like I said, it's one thing to make a whole movie out of. I mean, that's a simple plot device of, hey, someone stole my bike. But it's not. It's an iconic piece of pop culture and movie history. So I can't deny. I mean, even like I said, when they made fun of it in Family Guy, it's like, of course, he has the guy read that line out, and then there goes Pee-wee do the Force of Endor, like, I found my bike. I'm like, you can't help but at least laugh at it. Yeah, it's a fun time. A lot of shenanigans. Well,
and there's Spec.
Yep, again.
But I don't know, Tex, how about you? Just kind of some final thoughts wrapping up on this movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was, sad to hear that Paul Reubens had passed, but it was fun to go back and watch him at probably his best. And he's a rebel, Donnie. What can you say? He's just he's a loner. He's a rebel, whatever. But hey, he did. Pee-wee Herman will forever be remembered because he did the most important thing. He forgot his name. He forgot who he was, but he remembered the Alamo. My God, if you remember the Alamo, that's all that matters in this life. So, hey, my Texan hat is off to you, sir. So, God bless you. It's all good. So,
he doesn't take the A&M hat off that easily either.
No, there's that from one Texan to an honorary Texan. As I said, he's not a native; he's honorary. But God bless you. He forever. He even made our Alamo even more that much important by putting it in this film. So credit where it's due.
And they're going to make that basement. They're going to make that basement. Damn it! One of these days.
I would, in honor of his loss, I would be okay with them digging a hole out back and putting a basement in. I would vote yes.
I read somewhere that there actually is not a basement, but an underground storage area under like one corner of the Alamo.
There is.
It's not a full basement, but it
there is. When you go, when you go to the northwest side, which is like when you're at the front of the Alamo, it's like right over here. There's actually a section where they've been digging down, and there's. Like I said, I was just there Monday. You can actually see there's like 8 foot deep where they've dug, where there's been multiple floors of the actual Alamo. So it's not a basement, but yeah, there's technically underground parts of the Alamo. Yes, that is correct. But
yeah,
all good.
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, this movie is kind of pop culture elite. Everything plays a part in pop culture in some way, but I mean, this movie is one of the top probably 10 or 15 movies that kind of drives what pop culture really was as pop culture was even becoming a thing. Paul Reubens himself, he's going to be remembered for Pee-wee more than anything else, but I mean, he was a great actor. He was a great comedic actor. He was a great creative mind. You can't deny that. Go look at some of the things he did both as Pee-wee and as the other things we talked about earlier. So, I mean, and to top it off, the movie's just damn funny. I mean, it is kind of an interesting story about watching this guy realize what's really important in life. I mean, it's got a touch of romance for the women. It's got a touch of goofy slapstick for the idiots like me that like that kind of stuff. It's got the happy ending that only celluloid can deliver. I mean, you can pick this movie apart and say a lot of negative things about it, and I think that a lot of the justification for a lot of that might technically be accurate, but I mean, it hasn't stopped people from loving this movie for 35 years now. So yeah, 35, I don't know however many years it's been. So yeah, you can't knock the fact that this movie's been around for a while because it's good. It's got something that a lot of movies don't. It's put together in a way that makes you want to watch it. Loaded with a lot of talent that would become huge in the late 80s and early 90s, Phil Hartman and all that stuff. So it's available. It's not available to watch on any of the streaming services right now for free. I actually just went and bought it for $5 in HD on Amazon. It's either that or spend $4 to buy it on HD on YouTube, or you can rent it for like $3. I'm just like, it's $5. It's $5 well spent. What I'm probably going to end up doing is they actually released a Blu-ray version of this back in I think 2011. I really think I might just go find it on Blu-ray. I don't do the physical media much anymore, but yeah, I think this might be one of the things I'll have on physical media just for shits and giggles. I'd like to have a Blu-ray. I've never actually heard the commentary on this, so I think it'd be interesting to put this DVD in and listen to the commentary, listen to some of what he says, because I'm one of those weirdos.
I've got the DVD and mine doesn't have the commentary. I must have a different version of it or something.
I don't know if that's one of the earlier versions that was put on DVD or not. I'm gonna find the Blu-ray probably, and I'm probably gonna pick it up. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Paul Reubens and whoever else might be on there with him has to say about the process of making this film. But yeah, you're not gonna hate yourself or watch this movie. You're gonna be amused by its stupidity, if nothing else, and you will kind of find yourself looking at it being like, oh, that person became huge. Oh, that person became huge. There's Phil fucking Hartman. It's like. It's a
movie. It's a movie the whole family can watch, and everybody's going to get something that they like out of it. I mean, some parts of it are more childish than others, but don't forget, Pee-wee. It's a childish show, but it was made for adults, not kids. Once they did Pee-wee's Playhouse, that was the more child-friendly version.
Oh, yeah.
If you go back and look at the original Pee-wee that they did on HBO. There's some very sexual more jokes. I mean, it was a different version.
I think he even swears quite a bit in the original.
I think you're right. I mean, I know in the original HBO special, like there's like a woman that's like seductively crossing her legs, and Pee-wee's like, ooh, like he's very it's played adult. This isn't, like I said, the Pee-wee's Playhouse show that with Cowboy Curtis and Zombie. That's a different version. Like there's this one anybody can watch it.
Quiet there, Spec. But JSP, we actually did cover that, the connection between the Groundlings. A lot of the people from the Groundlings comedy group is actually in this movie. We talked about Phil Hartman, Elvira, the girl that was the tour guide and stuff like that at the Alamo. Yeah, there's a lot of them in here, and a lot of them went on to pretty successful careers themselves as well. But yeah, that's probably where we're going to start wrapping things up right now. Thanks, everybody, for coming to hang out with us. We very much appreciate it. I'll go to text first. Text, where can the folks at Hope find you on the internet?
Right here. Obviously, Saw X is coming up next month. So for Saw Timber, because September doesn't exist anymore, I've officially renamed it. I will be rewatching the entire series, ranking it. I don't know what content's going to come of it yet, but it'll all be featured here on the channel. Obviously, when the old derailed days, Drew and I had started this, but we never got to finish it. So I'm going to go back from the start, Saw 1 all the way through, including Spiral, which that movie's garbage, but it's in the series I have to cover. So I don't know if who else is going to pop in on it or wants to contribute. All are welcome, from the channel here. But yeah, there's going to be some cool Saw content coming from me, so be looking forward to it. It'll be here.
And of course, to my hetero life mate Jeremy, where can the folks at home find you on the internet, my friend?
Well, I'm here. I almost did like the meme. I'm over here. It sounds enough like Pee-wee. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm here on Thursdays doing whatever review we're doing that week. And honestly, the best place to probably find that kind of thing is X Marks the Spot, the social media formerly known as Twitter for you Prince fans.
R.I.P. the dead bird. You shot it. Get it.
That's still a movie I need to actually watch. It's in there somewhere. The there was a horror movie called Dead Birds, and I'm like, what in the
I know
absolute?
you are, but what am I?
I'm like, what in the absolute shit is that? Thanks, Frank. Yeah, spooky season's coming up, so I'm getting ready for that. I actually just, if anyone saw me looking down quite a bit, I was getting stuff for some more movie-related stuff. I'm gonna try and be Eddie from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Not Eddie Munson, sorry everybody, but you know, I save him for special occasions.
You're Eddie Munson in your real life.
I know. The other Eddie. I'm gonna try to. There's a local theater that's doing a Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I'm like, I've never actually dressed up for one yet. I've done No Longer a Virgin. I've been to the shows, but I'm like, I never dressed up, so why not? And yeah. So I don't know. I was playing Doom. I've been killing demons, so that's about it.
There you go.
And I said, spooky season's gonna kick in, so like I said, I'm gonna go act for my money. I'm not in a union or anything. I'm on a strike, so I will take that paycheck.
You scam son of a bitch. Where's your pride and integrity? What the hell?
I'm the devil. Do you really think I care? No.
My pride and integrity has a price, damn it. If you're willing to pay for it, you can have it.
You paid to come see me. So
I'll go to the wrestling fans when Ted DiBiase say everything.
How do you not stand? The nanny is up there fighting for your rights to get paid, and you're not standing behind Fran Drescher. What's wrong with you, man? Come on.
Well, you know, she did have a thing where she was off shopping at Prada or something like that. And
well, we're not going to talk about that because that doesn't make her look good.
You know what they say about the devil and Prada, so I mean,
yeah, no doubt. But as for me, no, you are. What am I? No, you are. What am I? No, you are. What am I? You'll find me here a couple nights a week, banging out some reviews. I think the next one we're planning on doing is American Werewolf in London. That was actually the plan tonight. However, I kind of changed tack because I was like, I haven't seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure in a couple of years, and with Paul Reubens passing away, I wanted to take an opportunity to pay proper homage to him, and also it kind of in better time. Like, there was a little bit of YouTube behind it. I wanted to strike while the iron was hot, but at the same time, it's one of those movies. Like I said, it's eclectic. It's a great watch. It's really fun, and it's one of the bigger pieces of pop culture history. So, yeah, you can find us here on Tuesday doing what I just say. The American Werewolf in London, and then after that, I don't know what we're gonna do. We'll think of something. I know somebody brought up Mark Wahlberg and Boogie Nights earlier in the chat. I love that movie. I will tell you right now, my two favorite Mark Wahlberg movies, and you guys can shit on me all you want for this, is Boogie Nights and Rockstar. I don't care what anybody says. Rockstar is a great movie. I think it's.
I like Rockstar. Rockstar, I can get behind. Yeah, I like that.
And it's loaded with talent as well. Loaded with a lot of great actors and some great music as well. Steel Dragon, great band. I still listen to Steel Dragon.
So
they're fake.
We're not going to review his crappy Transformer movie where he puts on a horrible Texas accent but breaks it halfway through and never goes back to it. We're not going to review that one.
Oh. No. First two Transformers movie is good. Everything after that was crap except for Bumblebee. Bumblebee was pretty good. And Rise of the Beast wasn't bad, but it wasn't the same. It's still missing a little something. I don't know, but whatever. But so catch us back here next, let's see, on Tuesday, so we can do what we do. Yeah. Thanks a lot for coming around, everybody. Very much appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, I know you are.
See y'all later.
I mean, there's a small basement in the Alamo.
You could set a bike in there.
I'm telling you what, though. I'm willing to bet that after it was all over, he went and tore Dottie. He just went and tore her. He went and tore her up.
You know.
Do you blame him?
Miss Dottie was she was hurting for a squirting. I tell you what, she was needing it, boy. She was going a bad way for some Pee-wee dong. You know what I'm saying? So,
Dad or Pee-wee was gay.
Well, you know.